Chapter 647. In the hotel room, Lu Cheng stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the starry river of lights in the distance. His mind was calm and relaxed as he thought about the crab and Yen Zheka. Many details with the passage of time only left a vague image, but the substance had already become instinctive, becoming a conditioned reflex. Usually, one would not feel anything, but when the familiar scene hit, everything would suddenly become clear, vivid in one's mind, and one would feel the depth and meaning of the traces. These were the foundations of the building. He quietly watched for a while and calculated the time when the girls' class ended. He picked up his phone, typed a line, and silently deleted it. After 3 times, he opened his mouth with a bitter smile. There's something I don't know if I should tell you. If I tell you, I'm afraid you'll feel sad and pressured. If I don't tell you, I'm afraid you'll think I've become cold and not passionate enough. Yen Zheka was packing up her books and moving to another classroom. She suddenly saw this line and replied with a confused expression. What's the matter? Just tell me. I'm mentally strong. What's wrong with Cheng? Lu Cheng's lips curled up slightly. He typed word by word. It's about how I miss you very much. Yen Zheka was speechless. Her lips pursed into a smile. Half puzzled and half happy, she asked, Why do you suddenly miss me? When I had a meal with Hipster and the others, the priest brought a girl over. She was a food blogger and very good at peeling crabs. She peeled crabs for everyone. At that time my reply was, Thank you, you peeled them very well. I remember you taught me this. Lu Cheng described what had happened in a concise and comprehensive manner. He didn't say why he missed her, only that he remembered it. You've mastered it well. Yen Zheka felt her heart soften. All her emotions were settled. The 4 words, I miss you very much, were no longer empty. They had concrete and deep support. Without waiting for Lu Cheng to reply, she added, Yesterday, I saw a black junior wearing a feather coat and a star crown in the corridor. This has become a trend in school. So, I miss you very much too. Why didn't you say so before? Lu Cheng understood what she was implying. Yen Zheka replied, proudly looking at the sky expression. I'm just worried that someone will be impulsive and directly book a flight here. In the past, it would definitely be like this. Now, I can only enter the country once every half a year. Furthermore, they couldn't use it for more than 10 days at a time. This was the restriction imposed on physical invulnerability experts. You're right. Yen Zheka sent an emoji of sitting in a daze. Suddenly, she felt an urge to take out her notebook and timetable and look through her schedule. She wanted to go back to China for the weekend and give someone a surprise. In certain matters, she had always possessed great courage and a strong drive for action. After flipping through it again and again, her expressions suddenly fell. This was because in the first year of learning from the master, her schedule was packed. There were too many investigations and research to complete on the weekends. This was also the way she had chosen to graduate early. She stood up and turned into a nearby public restroom. Standing in front of the sink, she took off her black-rimmed glasses and splashed cold water on her face. Raising her head, she looked at her beautiful face in the mirror. Yen Zheka suddenly reached out and pressed the corners of her eyes. Sticking out her tongue, she made a face for herself. This was her favorite face when she was young. It's all your fault. She stared at the opposite, and muttered. After a few days, the main competition of the master battle came to an end. Warrior sage, Qian Donglu, had obtained the right to challenge Dragon King. The 2 of them would have another showdown during the spring festival. After flying back to Huadu, Lu Cheng didn't rest that day. After a slight adjustment, he instructed Aumon to inform the driver to pick him up at the villa. It was 2 in the afternoon and Connecticut was quiet. It would be a waste if he didn't use this time to practice martial arts. Furthermore, after the master battle, he had a lot of questions to answer. At 2:50 p.m., the luxurious and spacious nanny van stopped at the entrance of the villa by Xiaofan Lake. Lu Cheng sat in the back and glanced at Aumon, who hadn't put down her luggage. He smiled and said, You go back first and have a good rest. I don't have anything to do today. I'll just train for 2 or 3 hours. Just let old Zhao wait. Old Zhao was the driver. Zhao Zhenhua. Aumon shook her head with a radiant smile. I can rest at the club and I don't have to cook or order takeout. That's good. Lu Cheng didn't insist. He leaned back and closed his eyes, as though he was resting. Seeing this, Amin carefully took out a book from her bag and started reading seriously. She would take notes on her phone from time to time. After spending some time with the assistance of other physical invulnerability mighty ones, she had learned how to learn by herself and not waste time. This also stemmed from a small obsession in her heart. Although no one would badmouth her in front of her, there would always be people gossiping behind her back, thinking that she had sold her body to become a professional assistant. As for who she sold her body to, no one would dare to say it out loud, but the answer was self-evident. Because of this, the joy of her change in life lessened. She didn't even share it with her parents and best friends. She only told them that she had been promoted, got a raise, and was shining brightly in an important position in the club. I want to be a truly outstanding assistant. Amin clenched her fist. In the stable car, which barely shook, she would read a book or put on her earphones to watch related videos. Due to a car accident, half of the road was blocked. Lu Cheng took half an hour to reach the club and the exclusive training ground. Other than the public areas, there were 10 secret spaces, each sealed by a metal door. This allowed each physical invulnerability mighty one to enjoy their own space and not disturb each other. As soon as he pushed open the door of the training ground, he saw a figure standing upright. He was wearing a navy blue martial arts suit, standing in the bright afternoon sun. Although his face was full of sweat and he couldn't hide his tiredness, he had the temperament of an immovable mountain. This was the Dragon King, Chen Qitao. Even though the other physical invulnerability mighty ones in the club weren't around, he didn't relax his standards. As though he had already sensed Lu Cheng's approach, Chen Qitao wasn't surprised. He only nodded slightly as a form of greeting. He strode towards the corridor leading to the volcano laboratory. When he brushed past Lu Cheng, he paused for a few seconds and said sternly, "During this time, practice 9 rotations of 5 flames again." Huh! Lu Cheng was a little confused. The 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descend of the Sun was an external invulnerability secret art. Due to its compatibility with the cosmic style, Lu Cheng didn't dare to say that he was comparable to the Dragon King. However, in terms of precision and ease of control, he was superior to veteran fire sect mighty ones like Optimus Prime Longzhen. It was a work he was proud of. Why do I have to practice again? Chen Qitao put his hands behind his back and said in a deep and heavy voice, "You relied on cultivation techniques to omit the complicated control techniques in 9 rotations of 5 flames. These things won't help you better use 9 rotations of 5 flames, but they can improve your control of various flames. This is the foundation of the basics. Some shortcuts can be taken, but some things can't be saved." As soon as he finished speaking, the Dragon King strode forward again and walked past Lu Cheng. The size and shape of each step were the same as the previous one. It was as though he was copying and pasting. Lu Cheng was stunned for a moment. He quickly understood that he had almost neglected the most important foundation. He hurriedly turned around and saluted the Dragon King's back. "Thank you for your guidance, Senior." Chen Qitao didn't turn around, stop, or look back. It was as though he hadn't said anything. After watching the Dragon King disappear around the corner of the corridor, Lu Cheng left the training ground and changed his route to the physical invulnerability training room. He started practicing 9 rotations of 5 flames. Descend of the Sun again. After an entire afternoon of hard training, Lu Cheng used a towel to wipe the water droplets off his forehead. He changed into fresh clothes and headed to the restaurant to eat, just like he did most of the time in Huaqing. At 7 in the evening, he returned to the villa. After sending Amin and the driver Zhao Zhenhua away, Lu Cheng chatted with Kai Zongming, Jiang Fei, and the rest on QQ until Little Fairy finished her morning exercise. "Cheng, before I went to bed last night, I saw an invitation for a luxurious tour group. It's going to Huaqing," Yan Zheka said excitedly. "So?" Lu Cheng asked back, pretending to be confused. "Cuckoo will only be back during the winter break. I'll be the tour guide then." "Seriously?" Yan Zheka said. "You've been in Huaqing for a few months. Haven't you thought of bringing uncle and auntie here for some fun? Didn't you say that they had a hard time and had almost never traveled before? Sign them up for a tour group and let them have a look around Huaqing. They won't be staying at a hotel but at home. Amin can get a driver to pick them up. You don't have to go through so much trouble. Just spend time with them when you're home every day." Lu Cheng was stunned for a while. Who exactly is their child? I've never thought of such a thing. I was thinking of going back home for a few days in December. Men aren't as attentive as girls in this aspect. Tisk, it's good that you have such self-awareness. Ask Uncle and Auntie if they're free from November 27th to December 7th. The tour group is only for 7 days. Leave 2 days before and after to let them get familiar with our house. We can even make you a dinner of love, anyway. You can book the plane tickets yourself. Yan Zhuka said proudly. Lu Cheng's lips curled up a little. Then he emphasized with a smirk, call them Mom and Dad. Chapter 648. After chatting with Yan Zhuka, Lu Cheng checked the time and immediately called his mother, Xiaofan. Didn't you just call back to Huaqing at noon? What's the matter? Xiaofan was not at all happy to receive her son's call. Instead, she was full of disdain. The TV series she was following had its finale today. Lu Cheng forgot to explain the cause and effect and blurted out, Mom, can you and Dad find time from November 27th to December 7th? Why are you asking this? Xiaofan asked in surprise. She shifted her gaze from the TV screen to Lu Jisheng beside her. Ke wants to sign you up for a tour in Huaqing. You don't have to buy anything. Haven't I settled down here for a few months? I've been so busy practicing martial arts that I forgot to ask you two to come visit and live here for a while. It was Ke's reminder that reminded me of this. Seriously, haha. Lu Cheng laughed dryly, trying to belittle himself and elevate his wife. Xiaofan was stunned for a few seconds as she digested the information. Then she smiled and said, You are not even as filial as a daughter. Zhuka is such a good girl. I always wanted to give birth to a daughter. How sweet. Who knew I would give birth to a debt collector like you? But if it really is a daughter, I wonder how happy your second uncle and the others will be. Mom, tell me if you're free first. Lu Cheng quickly stopped his mother from changing the topic and praised himself. Without a son like me, would there be such a good daughter-in-law? You're still breathing. Xiaofan had seen this line several times recently and subconsciously used it. I'm fine with anything. I can ask for leave at any time. But I have to ask your dad. Hey, Cheng, you don't have to sign up for a tour. Your dad and I will stay here for a few days to see you and just wander around. She asked Lu Cheng with her eyes as she spoke. Lu Jisheng was confused and did not understand what was going on. He also did not know how to answer. His face was full of confusion. It's okay. Don't I usually train at the club? You'll be bored at home, and the surroundings are relatively quiet. There are no neighbors. Even if there are, you won't be able to understand Guangnan dialect. It's better to drink morning tea with the tour guide, try Guangnan cuisine, eat seafood, and visit interesting places. If you don't understand something, he'll translate and solve it. Everything will be easy and simple. Lu Cheng didn't choose his words carefully. He just said whatever came to his mind. You and my dad haven't traveled before except for Gao Fun. Let's give it a try. That's to watch your competition. Your father used to run around a lot, but he was just working for others. Xiaofan pondered for a moment, and her thoughts were stirred. Lu Yanwei is doing well with Erzi, isn't he? He's getting married in the Spring Festival, so your second uncle and the others can relax. During the National Day holiday, he went to Kaiyun province for a trip. When he came back, he showed off to the people in the factory for quite a while. That factory had been closed down for many years, but Xiaofan was still used to calling her former neighbors that way. That's right. They're all going on a trip. You can't fall behind. Lu Cheng tried to provoke his mother. Xiaofan took a deep breath and said, All right, it's settled then. You're not going to ask my dad? Lu Cheng was stunned. Him. He has no objections. What's the point of saving up so many years of leave? Xiaofan answered firmly. Lu Jisheng, who was beside her, went from confused to dumbfounded. That's not what you said just now. Lu Cheng complained in his mind, but didn't beat around the bush. He said directly, All right, I'll get Ke to sign up. Mom, remember to take a picture of you and my dad's ID cards and send it to me on WeChat. I'll help you book all kinds of tickets. Okay. Hey, Cheng. Go ahead and sign up. Don't let Ke spend money. Her family is well off, but we're not poor either, right? You're already a mighty one with physical invulnerability. You're not married yet, so you have to be careful in this aspect, Xiaofan reminded him. Mom, don't worry. I'll give her the money. Lu Cheng replied, amused. Not to mention the close relationship between Kaz Alipay and his own, the most important financial power was in her hands. Her credit cards and online payment accounts were now tied to his own bank card. She was also in charge of family finances. There wasn't much discussion. After they got married, she took the initiative to do it herself. Xiaofan was relieved. Then she said anxiously, your dad and I have never been on a plane before, so we don't understand. What should we do when the time comes? It's very simple. I'll teach you when you get to the airport. You have to trust my dad's IQ. Hearing Xiaofan's question, Lu Cheng suddenly sighed. Dad and Mom had been busy all their lives worrying about their family. They hadn't really enjoyed themselves, and this was even their first time on a plane. If it really didn't work out, he could ask Almond to accompany them throughout the journey. After hanging up the phone, Lu Cheng reported the situation to Yan Zhaka. She immediately chose the most expensive and best tour. She even chatted with the customer service and made many requests, not minding adding money. Inviting her parents-in-law to Huacheng was a good thing. However, if she was fussy about things like cost-performance ratio and made the trip unhappy, it would be a bad thing to do with good intentions. It was better not to do it. Since she was going to do it, she had to do it perfectly. While Lu Cheng was thinking of adding a burden for Amen, the assistant was standing at the entrance of Tiandu Garden, waiting for the arrival of her best friend. Her best friend was called Wang Zi. After graduation, she returned to her hometown to work in the provincial capital. Today, she was on a business trip to Huacheng and wanted to stay for 3 nights. This way, she could chat with her best friend under candlelight and chat about girls' topics. At the same time, she could save on the travel expenses of staying in a hotel. When the time came, she could get an invoice and turn it into income. 10 minutes later, a taxi stopped. Wang Zi, with her curly hair, pushed open the door and got out. Amen hurried over and helped her take out the luggage from the trunk. Wang Zi, with her thick eyebrows and bright eyes, sized up her best friend a few times and said in surprise, Man, you've become prettier. Your skin is fairer too. Amen had always been pretty. However, she didn't know how to take care of her skin when she was in university. She often participated in outdoor activities, so her skin had become a healthy wheat color. I've been more diligent in taking care of myself recently. Amen brushed her hair and smiled humbly. Girls are more attentive to other girls and pay more attention to details. What brand are you using? The whitening effect is so good? Wang Zi asked with great interest. Amen dragged the luggage and spoke as she walked. She didn't hide anything. Wow, this is so expensive. Wang Zi couldn't help but look sideways at her best friend. She teased her with her unique frankness. You really got a promotion and a raise. As they spoke, they entered the elevator and arrived at Amen's residence. 2 floors, 2 apartments. This neighborhood is pretty high-end, Wang Zi said casually. Amen smiled and said, the buildings over there are even more high-end. 1 floor for 1 apartment. Actually, it's 2 floors for 1 apartment. As she spoke, she opened the door and invited Wang Zi in. The decorations are pretty luxurious. Wang Zi looked around and didn't say anything. She changed the topic and asked, Man, which room are you staying in? Your roommate won't mind if you take me in, right? She was originally carefree and didn't care much about this, but now she was suddenly a little cautious. No, I live alone, Amen answered concisely. Wang Zi was stunned for a few seconds and blurted out, How much is that? This is Huacheng. The rent is very expensive, and this is a high-end neighborhood. Amen was stumped by the question. After thinking for a while, she smiled and said, I don't know. The club assigned me a room after I got promoted. I don't have to pay. Wang Zi's mouth was half open. She looked around and pretended to ask exaggeratedly, Man, is your club still recruiting? Isn't this treatment a little too good? After joking around for a while, Amen helped Wang Zi pack her luggage. I have to hug you to sleep tonight. Wang Zi sat cross-legged on her best friend's bed. She said half curiously and half instigated, Isn't being an assistant in Longhu Club very popular? Those inhuman mighty ones all have a high status as long as they change careers. The deputy chief of our province's police department is also an inhuman. If you have a good relationship with them, you might be able to live a good life in the future. It's useless. The members of the assistant team take turns to serve. Unless you purposely try to curry favor with them and spend a lot of effort to curry favor with them. Also, who knows how many years it will take for them to come in handy, Alman explained with a smile. Wang Zi didn't harp on this matter. After a few words, they talked about their college roommates. For example, a certain someone went back to her hometown for a blind date when she had a boyfriend in Huahai. She even slept with him and got pregnant, so they had to break up in a hurry. For example, a certain someone got married right after graduation and her child could already walk. For example, a certain someone entered a certain company and had already bought a house with a down payment. Relying on her youthful vigor, Alman stayed up for half the night and went to work as usual the next day. As Lu Cheng had to leave early in the afternoon to try out an old shop, she followed him back home at around 5 p.m. to catch up on sleep. Just as she entered the house, she saw the beautifully dressed Wang Zi running around in circles anxiously. What's wrong? Alman asked with concern. Boss insisted that I invite a client to Jinding Xian. That's a high-end shop, but the seats were all booked 2 days ago. He didn't know to say so earlier and just did as he pleases. No, I must change the place. Wang Zi complained about her stubborn boss. Jinding Xian? Mr. Liu had been there before and the reviews were pretty good. It was barely considered high-end. Alman thought for a while and said, Don't worry, Guzi. I'll help you book it. Wang Zi's nickname came from her surname. You're going to book it? Wang Zi was stunned. Didn't you say that the seats were all booked? I know the manager there. Alman answered with a smile as she took out her phone and searched for a number. She met this person when she was helping Mr. Liu book a table. When the call was connected, she politely explained the whole story. The other side immediately said straightforwardly, Miss Alman's business is my business. Just tell your friend to come over and tell him your name. Thank you. I'll definitely treat you to a meal later. Alman said gratefully. The person laughed and said, You're welcome. I know you're busy and have to follow Mr. Liu around every day. After hanging up the phone, Alman turned to Wang Zi and said, All right, you just need to report my name. Really? Wang Zi still didn't quite believe it. Since when could Alman's name be used as a signboard in such a high-end event? At 7 p.m., she changed into a long dress and waited for the customer at the entrance of Jinding Xian. Along the way, she saw a grand sight that made her feel a little ashamed. Looking at the waiters lined up neatly to welcome her, Wang Zi said nervously, We have booked a reservation. We made a reservation. Alman made the reservation. Miss Alman booked it. A waiter smiled brightly and extended his hand. This way, please. He led Wang Zi and her customer up the elevator and into a quiet and elegant private room. Outside, the river was flowing and the lights were reflected. It was dazzling and dreamy. Miss Wang, you seem to have a lot of connections in Huaqing. The customer looked around and praised sincerely. As a local, he knew the importance of this matter. Wang Zi had been in a daze ever since she got into the elevator. A thought kept echoing in her mind. The assistant of Longhu Club is so awesome? P.S. Mother-in-law is hospitalized for a minor surgery. I have to go and take a look. It's midnight. Chapter 649. At around 10 p.m., Wang Zi carried her bag and returned to Alman's place. She saw her best friend with her hair down and an electric toothbrush in her hand. She looked like she was about to wash up and sleep. How did it go? Alman asked casually. Pretty good. We've reached an agreement of intent. I can go back and get a bonus. It's all thanks to you today. Wang Zi replied calmly with a smile. She then asked casually, Why are you sleeping so early? Isn't it the weekend tomorrow? Do you have to work overtime? I don't have weekends. My boss is busy and has to go out at any time. That's why I have to keep the same schedule as him. Alman didn't try to hide it and laughed at herself. Of course, for the past few months, Mr. Liu had chosen to train in the villa's training field on the weekends. He didn't go out and didn't have anything else to do. He allowed himself to enjoy 2 days off every week like a normal employee. He's really a heartwarming boss. Boss. Aren't you the assistant of the Longhu Club? Wang Zi seized the opportunity to ask. Amen pondered for a few seconds before answering frankly, "Didn't I get promoted? I'm now Mr. Lu's personal assistant." Lu Cheng. Wang Zi was stunned at first. She then blurted out with a sharp voice, "Physical invulnerability mighty one. You're the personal assistant of a physical invulnerability mighty one?" Even though she didn't pay much attention to martial arts, she had often heard of the names of physical invulnerability mighty ones, not to mention the heavenly son of the era who was in the limelight recently. "Yeah." Amen nodded solemnly. Wang Zi was stunned for a few seconds before exhaling. She muttered to herself, No wonder Man is so respected. She's the personal assistant of a physical invulnerability mighty one. Why didn't you say so earlier?" Wang Zi came to her senses and couldn't help but probe. Amen smiled bitterly. "You don't know. I felt like I'd won the lottery. I couldn't believe it and felt like I was dreaming. It was really no different from a dream. I've been fearful for the past few months and didn't have confidence. I was afraid that I'd be fired after showing off. I wanted to tell you guys after I settled down." "You were randomly selected?" Wang Zi was full of curiosity. "Yes." Recalling the past, Amen still found it unreal. "I've always tried my best to perform well in front of Mr. Lu, but he was always very polite. How should I put it? He kept a clear distance from me. When he made the great leap and became a physical invulnerability expert, he picked me as his assistant. I was stunned. Do you know? I was so happy." The feelings that she had held in for months gushed out at once. No special interaction? Wang Zi was in the same state of disbelief as Amen back then. She kept feeling that there were some unknown details. It was impossible for a pie to fall from the sky, right? Even if it really fell, why didn't it hit someone else? Why did it have to hit Man? She didn't think that there was anything seductive in it. Instead, she thought of some chicken soup stories about interviews, such as how to straighten a broom after entering the door. Well, there is one thing. Didn't he leave the club with serious injuries? I've sent him messages of encouragement before, including on New Year's and birthdays, but they weren't mass messages. They were specially edited. That's the only one. Amen pondered and answered. Good people have good karma. Lu Cheng would definitely choose an assistant with good character, not someone who flatters the powerful and tramples on the weak. After a moment of silence, Wang Zi felt that she had found the answer. Then she asked in a gossipy mood, "What kind of person is he in real life?" Amen laughed and said, "I have to keep it a secret for my boss. That's the responsibility of an assistant. Well, what I can reveal is that he's really hardworking and down to earth. He's also a man who takes care of the feelings of others." "It's a pity that he's already taken," Wang Zi teased casually. Then she asked, "How much do you get a month now? Are there any special benefits?" Since she knew the status of an inhuman, she wasn't unfamiliar with the lofty status of a physical invulnerability expert. And as the personal assistant of a physical invulnerability expert, Man wouldn't be bad either. Looking at the free 3 rooms and 1 living room, and how she could solve a problem that she couldn't solve with just a phone call, it wasn't hard to imagine. Amen gave a brief description, which made Wang Zi gasp in admiration. At the end of the story, Wang Zi took a deep breath and said half-jokingly, "When I go back, I can brag like them. What about my friends and classmates? You're much more awesome than what they said." Amen couldn't help but laugh. Seeing that her best friend's attitude didn't change fundamentally, she felt relieved. As Lu Cheng trained hard day after day, the end of November came in the blink of an eye. At 8:30 p.m. on the 26th, he took the nanny van and arrived punctually at Huaqing Heishui Airport to pick up his parents' flight. More than 40 minutes later, he saw Qifeng and Lu Jisheng with his sharp eyes. They were wearing down jackets to resist the cold of Xiaofan, and they were looking blankly at the people who were wearing thin and light clothes. Lu Cheng smiled and went up to them. While describing the weather in Huaqing, he took the luggage from the old couple. At this moment, Amen and the driver, Zhao Zhenhua, rushed over and took the luggage. "Hey girl, let him take it. He's strong," Qifeng said politely. "Auntie, this is my job. Do you want me to lose my job?" Amen replied jokingly. "This is my assistant, Amen. This is my driver, old Zhao." Lu Cheng introduced them casually. Lu Jisheng pushed his gold-rimmed glasses and said knowledgeably, "You're acting like a boss, just like Fatty Gua. But he calls you secretary, not assistant. How can Fatty Gua compare?" The last time Cheng came home, he was stuttering when he saw him. Chi Fong retorted her husband out of habit. As they chatted and laughed, the family of three arrived at the underground parking lot and got into the nanny van. Seeing the light brown leather sofa, the bar with famous wine, the refrigerator with drinks, and the spacious space, Lu Jisheng and Chi Fong were shocked and became a little restrained. Under Amon's arrangement, they sat down without saying much. Lu Cheng saw this and shook his head with a smile. He opened the refrigerator door and took out a bottle of Xiaofan specialty lychee-flavored soda for his mother. He poured a cup of tea for his father and then sat opposite them. He leaned forward and tried to find a topic to talk about. "Dad, Mom, how was it? How was the flight?" Chi Fong thought for a while and said unhappily, "Your dad is really something. He says he's one of the 8 great Vajras, but he doesn't follow the rules. Before boarding the plane, he took the boarding pass and passed the security check, saying that it was a small matter. But when the plane took off, he kept grabbing the sides and refused to move. He refused to eat, drink, or go to the bathroom. His body was so tense. Didn't I get better later?" Lu Jisheng defended himself with dissatisfaction. There were outsiders here. He glanced at Amon and saw that she was focused on looking out of the window. He was slightly relieved and then exposed Chi Fong. "Your mom is the one who's crazy. She even went to the economy class to go to the bathroom. She counted how many rows there are and asked me to help her calculate how many people can sit on the plane. Is it interesting?" "Of course it's interesting. I can't just sit on a plane in the dark like this, can I? What should I say if they ask me when I go back to Xiaoshan?" Chi Fong glanced at Lu Jisheng. Listening to the old couple bickering, Lu Qing smiled and added a few words from time to time. The family was happy and harmonious, completely shattering the previous restraint. The car drove back to Xiaopei Lake and entered Lu Cheng's villa. Chi Fong took a look at the decorations and fell silent. After Amon and old Zhao left, Lu Cheng led them around and identified the room. Only then did Chi Fong and Lu Jisheng relax. "It's so big, but a little lonely." Chi Fong sighed casually. She suddenly felt that her son was truly independent and moved away from his original family. She was a little happy and a little sad. "Lonely? You can stay longer," Lu Cheng replied with a smile. No, your dad and I can't leave Xiaoshan. We've become lonely old people here. You and Jacques haven't had a child." "Sigh, no, if you have a child, it's better to ask her mom to help. Mother and daughter can talk about anything. Conflicts can be resolved in a second. I've seen a lot of dramas like this." Chi Fong suddenly started rambling. "Mom, I just mentioned it, but you've already thought about the child." Lu Cheng shook his head in amusement and changed the topic. The old couple rushed all the way and quickly washed up and went to bed. After the lights went out, the room became dark. The wind blew outside the window and the sound of water was soft in the distance. Chi Fong opened her eyes and stared blankly at the ceiling. After a long while, she suddenly sighed and said, "Cheng has really grown up. He's a man with his own family." Lu Jisheng's mouth slightly curved. After a long silence, he replied with a smile and a sigh, "Because we're old." Chapter 650. Lu Jisheng and Chi Fong arrived at the Sky Shadow Ligong Hotel in the nanny van and met up with the members of the Pure Play group. In the past 2 days, Lu Cheng had reduced his training time and accompanied his parents around Xiaopei Lake. He took them to several shopping malls and bought a lot of clothes suitable for the season. At first, the old couple wasn't too willing to spend so much money. However, the clothes they brought were obviously too thick and wouldn't fit in outside, especially when Lu Qing deliberately didn't mention the weather in Huaqing. They had no choice but to reluctantly accept it. Later on, Chi Fong was immersed in the shopping atmosphere. She didn't need much persuasion from her son and automatically began to choose. This made Lu Cheng happy to see her succeed. Occasionally, he would interact with Yan Zhaka about which ones looked good, which ones were average, and which ones were unique. Needless to say, people rely on clothes. Today, Lu Jisheng and Chi Fong looked brand new and walked more briskly. When they entered the hotel lobby, they were almost dazzled by the magnificent decorations. Then,
They saw a tall and thin man waving his phone over and smiling warmly.
Uncle Lu, Aunt Chi, right? I'm the tour guide Chen Zuinxian. I called you before. Yes. Hello. We're not late, right? Lu Jisheng had traveled extensively before and spoken Mandarin with a very Xing province accent. It's still early. Let's go. Chen Zuinxian led the old couple to the lobby rest area and pointed to a short, plump girl with thick eyebrows and thick lips. This is my partner, Qin Ran. We're in charge of the itinerary of the 10 VIPs. 10 tourists and 2 tour guides? Wasn't this too extravagant? Qi Feng was secretly speechless. Although she hadn't traveled before, in recent years, with the development of society, many of her relatives and friends had related experiences. Her casual chats had instilled a lot of basic knowledge into her. Of course, what she didn't know was that if it wasn't for the fact that Yan Zheka felt that it was too lonely with only the old couple, she might have booked private service. Okay, everyone's here. Qin Ran clapped her hands and said in a soft voice, Our first itinerary today is to go to Huaqing restaurant to enjoy morning tea. This is a habit of Guangnan people. Since we're here, we can't miss it. After a heart-pounding introduction, the group of pure players took a bus and passed through the streets and alleys. They arrived at the Huaqing restaurant, which happened to be filled with large round tables. The people here really like this. Qi Feng glanced at the bustling hall and whispered to Lu Jisheng. Didn't you watch TV? Lu Jisheng teased. He remembered that from a few years before his son was born until he was in the 3rd or 4th grade of elementary school, his wife especially liked TV dramas. How can you take all the TV series seriously? Qi Feng glared at him, twisting words and forcing logic. At this time, steamers were placed on the table one by one, and the aroma of all kinds of snacks filled the air. Because there were outsiders around, Qi Feng did not eat as quickly as she usually did. She only picked the food in front of her. An old man sitting next to the couple heard their discussion. He picked up his tea, took a sip, and asked with a smile, What's the matter? Are you from Xing province? His hair was almost completely white, but he was very hale and hearty. His dressing was very classy. Yes. Lu Jisheng nodded and answered. Qi Feng did not speak Mandarin, so she felt a little inferior in this kind of communication. She only listened and did not speak. Did your child sign you up for the group? The old man asked again with a smile. He casually picked up a steamed chicken claw with abalone juice and placed it on the plate. Lu Jisheng swallowed the shrimp dumpling in his mouth and said, Yes, he signed us up for the group online. We don't know much about this. I see that you didn't stay in this hotel? The old man looked like a businessman who liked to find topics to talk about. My child is in Huaqing. He stays at his place at night and comes to meet us in the morning. He thinks that he is too busy and is afraid that we have nothing to do at home, so he formed a group for us to travel around. Lu Jisheng deliberated over his words. The old man chuckled and said, Same for us. My child signed us up for the group. I feel that my child's mother and I have been busy our whole lives. Now that they have taken over, we can relax and take advantage of the fact that our legs are still good to see more and enjoy life. We can't just focus on working hard. He pointed to a woman in her 50s who was obviously plump but wore high-end clothes and bags. Don't talk about this nonsense. The woman smiled reservedly. After chatting for a while, everyone was a little more familiar with each other after breakfast. Chen Zuinxian kept running around and asking about their well-being, trying to make every tourist feel comfortable. We're going to one of the 8 sites of Huaqing next. Qin Ran saw that they had enough rest and quickly got up to introduce the group and organize the group. After a day of travel, the tired crowd returned to the Sky Shadow Li Palace Hotel and listened to the 2 tour guides in the lobby about the general arrangements for the next day. Old Lu, are you going back to your child's house? The old man named Xiaofan Kong was in good spirits and didn't follow the others to take the elevator to rest. Instead, he stayed in the lobby with his wife and chatted with Lu Jisheng, Qi Feng, and the 2 tour guides. Yes. He asked the driver to come and pick us up. As soon as Lu Jisheng finished speaking, Qi Feng's phone rang. She picked it up and nodded twice. She looked at the few people opposite her and smiled in a modified Xing province dialect. The car is here, we'll go first. Okay, Uncle Lu, Aunt Chi, be careful on the road. The tour guide, Chen Zuinxian, got up and sent the old couple to the door. Xiaofan and his wife and Qin stood in place and waved goodbye.
Their eyes followed the Lu couple until they reached the glass revolving door.
A silver-gray nanny van slowly stopped. Xiaofan's pupils shrank and he blurted out, "Military tag." It was a very special military tag with a very small serial number. Before he could finish his sentence, he saw the car door open. A young woman in office attire stepped out and respectfully helped Lu Jisheng and Qi Feng into the car. Before the door closed, the Lu couple turned and waved at Chen Zuinxian and the three people in the lobby who were looking at them. Xiaofan and the rest numbly raised their arms in response. The gap gradually disappeared. The silver-gray nanny van started up again and disappeared from their sight. Old Lu's family isn't simple. After a long while, Xiaofan sighed. But they didn't seem to be anything special at all. 7 to 8 days of touring watching passed by in the blink of an eye. Lu Jisheng and Qi Feng stayed for a few more days. Feeling bored, they flew back to Xiaofan as if they were fleeing for their lives. Lu Cheng started counting down the days until his little fairy's winter break. Just as he had mastered all the physical invulnerability chapters of the Ice Sect and Fire Sect, he received a message from the military. Lin Ke, who was in a war-torn zone, has gone missing. P.S. Came back late, so this chapter has fewer words. Chapter 651. Lin Ke is missing? Missing in the war-torn zones? Lu Cheng, who had just finished his training and was resting on the sofa, suddenly straightened his back. His slightly muddled mind suddenly cleared up, as though someone had splashed a bucket of ice water on him. Following that, worry, anxiety, and other emotions came one after another, filling up his thoughts. It made him forget to condense the ice heart and remain calm. Missing in the war-torn zones is often equivalent to death. He quickly typed out a reply and inquired about the specific situation. While waiting, he felt like he couldn't sit still. He stood up abruptly and paced around the spacious room. Many images of the past flashed through his mind. Lin Ke, who said, "sorry" painfully when he lost to Zhou Zhengquan. Lin Ke, who had a unique dry sense of humor. Lin Ke, who was cold on the outside but proud on the inside. Lin Ke, who had awakened his supernatural ability prematurely and severely injured Peng Leyun. He smiled innocently and begged with, "I've tried my best. I'll leave the rest to you." He wasn't just his brother-in-law. He was also a friend who had worked hard, struggled, suffered, and experienced ecstasy together. After a few seconds, the military contact sent a detailed report. Lin Ke has been missing in Tigny City, Tallinn for more than 48 hours. Confirmed by a physical invulnerability expert who majored in the unique arts of the Plague Sect, he's not dead yet. His exact whereabouts are unknown. The Sky-Leaning Sword and 7-star couple from Shushan's study are on their way. Lu Cheng glanced over and found the main point. He felt much more at ease. At the same time, he made a decision. He would apply for leave and head to the war-torn zones to help search for Lin Quebec. In the past, he probably wouldn't have done this because he wasn't strong enough. Blindly helping would be a waste of manpower and resources. But now, he had made the great leap and achieved physical invulnerability. He had even mastered all his martial arts. Regardless of whether he was a relative or a friend, he had to go. After making up his mind, he furrowed his brows and felt troubled. Should I tell Ku about this? If I tell her now, she'll be worried all the time. Days will feel like years. She'll be mentally tormented and her daily life will be affected. But if I keep it from her and tell her after the results are out, I'll have to make up a lie to cover it up. This is something I've made a promise and I don't want to do, unless it's to surprise her. From Ku's perspective, with her personality and mindset, she'll definitely be able to accept it. She doesn't want to be kept a secret, especially from the person who's closest to her. A husband and wife should be able to share and share. He switched to the interface where he was chatting with Yen Zhaka. He chose his words carefully and said, "Cuckoo, I have to go to the war-torn zones." It was past 4 in the morning in Kingstown. The girl was still asleep, and the news sank like a stone in the ocean. Lu Qing didn't wait for a reply. As he lamented about the time difference, he opened the door and headed for Empress Luo's office. She happened to be here today, so there was no need to call. As he passed by the elevator, Lu Cheng saw the door of the sedan chair and the carriage slowly open. Walking out was Optimus Prime, Long Zhen, covered in blood, charred, and grime. He must have failed in his challenge to the Dragon King and got a good beating. Lu Cheng nodded thoughtfully. If it was in the past, he would definitely laugh at the other party. But now, he was not in the mood at all. After a silent greeting, he went to Ning Zitong's door and knocked 3 times. After getting permission, he pushed the door open and entered. Lu Cheng briefly explained what had happened to Lin Kei, and then brought up the matter of applying for leave.
You don't have to.
Ning Zitong frowned slightly. Our physical invulnerability experts are required to cooperate with the military every year. How about this? Treat it as your mission for the second half of the year. Thank you, Sister Ning. Lu Cheng didn't argue. He immediately turned to leave, intending to communicate with the military as soon as possible. Ning Zitong tapped the table lightly and reminded him, the war-torn zones aren't just a few dozen countries. Your master knows a lot about this. Remember to ask him for advice. Don't be careless.
Okay.
Lu Cheng nodded gratefully. With this reminder, he didn't rush to contact the military. Instead, he called his master. You want to help find Lin Kei? Asked Shi Jiangwo directly. He looked like he knew everything about the martial arts world even though he wasn't in it. Lu Cheng answered, yes. He quickly asked, Master, haven't you been roaming the war-torn zones for many years? I'd like to ask about the situation there. Brat, you've come to the right person. I've watched that place develop bit by bit into what it is today.
Most of the famous mighty ones who rule over a region used to tremble in fear at the mention of my name.
Geezer Shi reminisced about the past and rambled on for a while before getting to the point. He said, the war-torn zones are a general term for many countries. The east reaches the ocean, the north reaches the south of China, the west faces the Nile Straits, and the south reaches the polar regions. There are dozens of countries where the political situation is unstable. After today, there may not be tomorrow. The war-torn zones were initially caused by regional power struggles and resource grabs. When the strong and mighty ones were tired of fighting, they naturally looked for a peaceful solution. Unfortunately, the United States, Europe, Japan, and other major powers interfered, and the chaos lasted for decades. Chaos is a disaster for the local people. I didn't go to school, but I've heard that it's better to be a dog in peace than a man in troubled times. However, to the major powers, this is a good way to fish in troubled waters. They don't have to worry about the people's lives. As long as they work with the mighty ones, they can immediately obtain the maximum amount of resources. After the mighty ones maintain peace, they will quickly gain the support of the public. Even the worst stability is better than no order. If this continues, won't their ambitions grow? Don't they just want to get rid of their original control? Then it's another cycle. Many powers also want to maintain this situation. Other than resources, they also use the war-torn zones as a place to train their mighty ones, a base for human experiments, and an observation room for new weapons. When you're there, you can't just look at the surface. Many things are rooted in the United States and elsewhere. Tallinn is a country located in the middle of the war-torn zones. Before the split, it was one of the top countries. Their Tignes city is the center of the regional black market. There's some order, the order of the mighty. Currently, there are many physical invulnerability mighty ones in the war-torn zones, and even more of them are active there. With your current level, I'll only give you a word of advice. Don't mess with the stars, and avoid the gods. What does that mean? The custom there is that after becoming a top-notch mighty one, they will give themselves nicknames like stars or mythical figures. For example, Venus, Moon, Pluto, Zeus, and so on. If you make a name for yourself, you can give yourself one too. What did I give myself back then? Sigh, a real man doesn't talk about his past achievements. Geezer Shi only ended the call reluctantly when his phone was almost out of battery. Lu Cheng went over the key points, contacted the military, and arranged the itinerary. When all this was done, Yen Zheka woke up from her biological clock. She asked with a confused expression, "What's the matter?" "Something happened to your brother. His whereabouts are unknown. I'm going to help look for him." Lu Cheng tried his best to describe it in a casual tone. Yen Zheka's sleepy expression instantly collapsed. Her clear eyes widened as if she had been pricked by a few needles. "Whereabouts are unknown. Do you know what happened?" She couldn't help but ask. "I'm not sure at the moment. We're waiting for further investigation. However, the military's physical invulnerability mighty one who practices the unique skills of the plague sect confirmed that your brother is still alive. Lu Cheng sent a patting head emoji. Don't worry. Grandpa and Grandma are on their way. I'm here too. Your brother will be fine. Yeah. Yen Zhaka replied while nodding vigorously at the dusk of the morning. She took a deep breath and told herself that there was no point in being nervous. She might as well focus on training and throw herself into the heavy workload of schoolwork to calm down. She couldn't let her panic affect Cheng's state of mind and make him take risks to improve. After giving his instructions, Lu Cheng took a car to the military airport on the outskirts of Huaqing. He planned to fly directly to Jilangang, which was near Tallinn. This was a relatively orderly city in the Federation and had close ties with China. At 7:15 p.m., the temporarily arranged plane soared into the clouds. It first headed north, then south. In the entire cabin, other than the pilot, Lu Cheng, and an officer were the only ones in sight. As the lights dimmed, the environment became quiet and oppressive. After flying deep into the war-torn zones for an unknown period of time, Lu Cheng, who was resting with his eyes half closed, suddenly opened his eyes. Change flight route. There's danger ahead. However, if he went to take a look and ask the person involved, he might be able to gain more information. Anyway, 'cause grandparents had already gone to Tigny's, so he didn't need to be in such a hurry. Okay. Wang Feiyun agreed readily. In Jilangang, China had its own military base and airport, which was where Lu Cheng had just arrived at. At this moment, the jeep drove away from the main gate, passing through the quiet and deserted streets in the morning light. Bullet holes could be seen on the walls, indicating that this wasn't a particularly peaceful place. When they arrived at the Chinese Relief Organization in the south of the city, Wang Feiyun led Lu Cheng to a building in the back. Their mental conditions are very poor. Some even show signs of autism, he said, pointing at a large door. Through the window, Lu Cheng saw children who were no longer as lively as they were in their childhood. He saw women with blank gazes, and many men who were so quiet that they seemed to have lost their souls, only responding when stimulated. Even with Lu Cheng's current willpower, he couldn't bear to look at those ignorant and empty eyes. He asked Wang Feiyun to find two men who were in better condition and asked about what had happened. At this point, he basically understood what Lin Ke had been doing in the past few months. He was tracking down an international human trafficking organization rooted in Tigny's. Working with other mighty ones, he had interrupted several of their transactions, causing them to suffer heavy losses. As a result, this mafia organization had kept a low profile. Without more clues, Lin Ke had no choice but to go to Tigny's again, partly to hone his skills and partly to investigate. Was he retaliated against, or did he follow the clues only to run into a big tiger? Lu Cheng muttered to himself, deep in thought. He didn't expect a cold, introverted and taciturn man like brother-in-law to do such a chivalrous thing, risking his life to do it. In a fully enclosed room shimmering with metallic luster, Lin Ke's four limbs were powerless as he lay on the bed covered with white cloth. His hands and feet were shackled, from which silver-white bone spurs protruded and pierced into his muscles and bones, staining him dark red with blood. His dark pupils were slightly dilated, but there was an unyielding stubbornness in the depths of his eyes. His entire body was covered with various instruments. Increase the pain stimulus, observe the reaction of bone marrow and brainwaves. Extract 10 milliliters of blood, mix in reagent T305, and inject it into lab rat number 106. Cut the muscle 3 centimeters deep, apply reagent T246, record the rejection and recovery reaction process, pay attention to the data collection. Pause. Give lab rat number 19 time to recover and organize the previous data. Cold and emotionless voices entered his ears. Waves of unbearable pain hit his body. Lin Ke felt like he was being cut into pieces, and he wished he could pass out immediately. But he stubbornly held on. In a daze, he felt like he was in hell. If not for the lack of strength, he would have bitten his lips. Finally, the torture came to an end. He forced himself to examine his body and heal his wounds until he passed out completely. Jilangang, China's military base. Lu Chang used the satellite phone to contact Ji Zhenjiang and Dou Ning, who had already arrived in Tigny City. "You're here too," said Ji Zhenjiang, gratified. "Then hurry over as soon as possible. Don't make a big fuss, lest some people do something desperate and do something unsalvageable. When you arrive, we'll split up and save time." At first, Lu Cheng didn't understand. After thinking for a while, he understood why Old Master didn't want to make a big fuss. His brother-in-law had left the stage of attention before reaching the inhuman stage. He had a bit of a reputation, but it wasn't resounding enough. In the past 2 years, he had been on the verge of being forgotten. Therefore, his details wouldn't be taken seriously by the intelligence agencies of various countries. It was only natural that the organizations in the war-torn zones wouldn't know about his background. If they realized that kidnapping him would attract at least 3 physical invulnerability mighty ones, there would only be 2 choices left. They could either use a hostage and negotiate for a better outcome, or they could kill him to silence him and erase all traces of their brother-in-law's whereabouts and make him disappear from the face of the earth. This possibility wasn't low. Of course, Old Master and Old Madam weren't willing to take the risk. They wanted to confirm the clues before sweeping the area with lightning speed. Phew! Lu Cheng heaved a sigh of relief. After sharing the latest situation with his wife, he put away his satellite phone and asked for a map of Tallinn and Tignes. Without further delay, he left Jalangang. Measuring the distance by foot was faster and more agile than any off-road vehicle. In the afternoon, when the sun was high in the sky, he arrived at Tignes after crossing the mountains. He went around several entrances that were guarded by fully armed personnel, and snuck into the city from an impossible position. His first target was the common street that was mentioned in the information. The common street where Lin Kei had stayed for a while to recuperate from his injuries. Children in their teens patrolled the streets with automatic rifles. Their clothes were tattered, and their skin was dark. The innocence on their faces had been replaced by numbness and the occasional flash of hatred. Lu Cheng concealed his aura and activated the secret arts of cultivation. Using the refraction and distortion of sunlight from the ice, he disguised himself. He walked on the streets like that. The patrolling Boy Scouts ignored him. Longhu lineage, art of invisibility. Arriving in the middle of Common Street, Lu Cheng entered a rundown apartment and went up the stairs to the 3rd floor. According to the information, this was where Lu Cheng's brother-in-law used to live. His landlord was called Ji Kong. Just as he was about to knock on the door, Lu Cheng sensed something. He turned sideways and used his shoulder to force his way in. Beside the window opposite him was a gorgeous woman with black hair and eyes. She seemed to have lost all her bones. Her arms and body were wrapped tightly around a bronze-skinned man. The latter was Ji Kong. With a loud crack, all the bones in Ji Kang's body broke. He breathed his last. The snake-like demonic woman smiled at Lu Cheng. She suddenly flipped backward and landed on the street. The whole process was smooth and natural, fully demonstrating her confidence in herself. Just as she landed silently, the woman immediately turned around. Her body faded, and she turned into a black shadow. She moved to a hidden spot with extreme familiarity and calmness. Just then, her vision blurred. She saw the young man from before standing in front of her, as if he had been waiting for a long time. Not good. Just as she was about to change direction, she saw Lu Cheng's palm strike coming at her. It was as fast as lightning, leaving after images. Bam! She raised her hand to block, but her face was hit by the palm along with her forearm. Her vision turned black, and she passed out without making a sound. After some time, she opened her eyes in a daze. She saw the young man from before standing in front of her with his hands behind his back. She heard his deep and dignified voice. "Why did you kill Ji Kong?" Chapter 653. Why did you kill Ji Kong? Seeing no reaction from the snake-like woman, Lu Cheng asked again in English. Anyone who could make a name for themselves in the war-torn zones had to master both English and Chinese in addition to their mother tongue. The woman, who had strangled Ji Kong with her body, tried her best to show her authority. "The organization sent me. Do you want to make an enemy out of us?" "I'm asking why, that's all," Lu Cheng replied calmly. He didn't want to waste any more time. The word, army, appeared in his mind. Being stared at by those cold eyes,
The woman who had undergone harsh training suddenly collapsed. It was as if she could clearly smell the scent of death.
It was so terrifying, so terrifying. Her tears and snot flowed uncontrollably. Her body trembled like a sieve. I'll tell you everything. Ji Kong is a bee broker in Tignes' black market. He took a batch of our organization's goods and tried to escape. The organization discovered him and sent me to deal with him. I am telling the truth. Please don't kill me. I don't want to die, I don't want to die. A cold-blooded killer cried like a little girl in despair. She felt like she had lost control of her body and soul. A broker in the black market. Consistent with the description in the information. Lu Cheng nodded slightly. What organization are you from? Star Alliance, spare me, the woman replied while sobbing. An organization that controls 3 zones and has physical invulnerability mighty ones. Lu Cheng sensed her mental state and confirmed that she had broken down. She couldn't be lying to him. It seems like Ji Kang's murder has nothing to do with Lin Kei's disappearance. It's something else. As expected of a war-torn zone. After a few seconds of silence, Lu Cheng took out his phone that had no signal and pulled up a recent photo of Lin Kei provided by the military. Have you seen this person before? The woman trembled as she looked at the photo. She shook her head hurriedly. No, I haven't. Fearing that Lu Cheng wouldn't believe her, she quickly added, You can go to the Jinwale bar on Tutton Street and ask around. They have a general behind them. It's one of the main places for information exchange in Tignes, involving many people. If the person in the photo has been to Tignes, someone there should have seen him. There was a brief mention of it in the information, but it wasn't as detailed as the rose mill that was involved in human trafficking. The Jinwale bar should be used by the lower class. Every snake has its way, and every mouse has its hole. Lu Cheng made up his mind. He walked to the entrance, opened the door, and disappeared into the dark passageway, ignoring the female killer who was lying on the ground. The female assassin watched him leave in a daze. After a long time, she came back to her senses and cried again, full of the joy and venting of surviving a disaster. She used both her hands and feet to try to stand up, but her body was trembling so much that she couldn't exert any strength. With a bang, she fell back down again. Her face was covered in dirt, and her body was covered in dirt. At this moment, clear footsteps came from the corridor. Devil? That devil is back? The female assassin's pupils shrunk, and her hair stood on end. She felt as though electricity had passed through her tailbone. She forgot about the soreness and weakness she felt earlier. She jumped up, ran out of the window, and jumped out. Bam! She couldn't stand properly and fell like a gourd. She didn't know how many bones she broke, but she forced herself to crawl into the small alley. Her heart echoed with one thought after another. I won't go on missions anymore. This world is so scary. I want to book a counseling appointment. In the corridor, a boy with a rifle found an abandoned room and peed in it comfortably. Compared to common, Tutton Street was obviously much more prosperous. Although there were many people who were tough, they weren't as austere as the group of Boy Scouts. At the entrance of the Jinwale bar stood a total of 6 burly men. They didn't hide the bulge at their waists, and one of them was even holding an AK rifle upside down. Without any hesitation, Lu Cheng walked over and said with an imposing manner, I want to see your boss. The 6 burly men suddenly felt a heavy burden on their shoulders. They couldn't straighten their backs. They felt that the young man in front of them was both tall and deep. His words were irresistible, and they only wanted to obey. Yes, as you wish. The blonde leader answered with trembling legs. He led Lu Cheng inside. They passed through the first floor, which was packed with people, loud music, and dimly lit. They arrived at the stairs leading down. It was only then that he remembered to report. Underground, where the underground boxing competition was taking place, there was a spacious and luxurious office. Behind a steel desk sat a man in a red general's uniform. He was dignified, domineering, and stern. He wore a large brimmed hat that covered his eyes. Whenever he swept his gaze across anyone in the room, they would tremble in fear and want to kneel down and beg for mercy. And every one of these people was famous in the Jinwale bar, Tutton Street, and even Tignes City. Mr. General, a guest wants to see you. A trembling voice sounded from the walkie-talkie. The man known as the general clasped his hands on the table.
After a moment of silence, he said calmly, "Let him come over."
"Let's see who's looking for me by name." Lu Cheng's hands hung naturally, his index finger using the seam of his pants as a pendulum.
He followed the blonde man down the stairs and found another world underground. Bypassing the ring filled with intense fights and blood, he arrived at the entrance of the office. He saw the bar owner in a red general's uniform and a large brimmed hat surrounded by more than 10 experts.
"It's you." Lu Cheng was stunned at first, but soon smiled.
This was someone he knew, the son of a Miluo warlord who had defeated him in the Four Nations competition, Vagar the General.
He had honed his skills in the war-torn zones for many years.
He had fought with a Taoist once and indirectly helped him reach physical invulnerability.
"It's you."
Vagar was stunned as well.
His pupils constricted, like the tip of a needle, flashing silvery white.
Unlike many experts in the war-torn zones who lacked external sources of information, he had long known from Miluo's intelligence channels that the old opponent before him was no longer what he used to be.
He was a true general-level expert.
Vagar let go of his hands that were clasped on the desk and retracted them in front of him.
He seemed to be on high alert. He looked around at the experts before speaking in a deep voice. "Why are you here?"
"To buy information."
Lu Cheng went straight to the point. Vagar narrowed his eyes and sized up Lu Cheng. He couldn't see through the person he had defeated in the past.
Not only couldn't he see through him, but he also felt an inexplicable fear, like an animal facing its natural enemy.
"What information?"
Vagar's tone softened instinctively.
"I want to know if anyone has seen this person in the past few days." Lu Cheng took out his phone and showed him the information on Lin Quebec. "Send me his photo. I'll get someone to ask."
Seeing that it was a small matter, Vagar's body relaxed. Using the bar's LAN, Lu Cheng sent the photo over. Vagar ordered his subordinates to deal with it immediately.
Lu Cheng didn't leave. Instead, he dragged a chair and sat beside the office door. He looked like he wasn't going to rest until he got the results.
The veins on Vagar's forehead bulged and jumped, but he didn't explode in the end. After a long silence, he suddenly spoke.
"If I have the information you want, I hope to receive a special reward."
"What?"
Since Lu Cheng proposed to buy and not rob, there was naturally room for negotiation.
Vagar clenched his fists and straightened his broad back.
"Fight with me. I want to know how big the gap is between us."
He wanted to stimulate himself and find the dawn of becoming a true general-level mighty one.
"No problem." Lu Cheng nodded after a few seconds of silence. The two of them didn't say anything else. The office returned to silence.
However, the oppressive feeling made everyone uncomfortable. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly, except for Lu Cheng.
After an unknown period of time, news finally came back. More than 5 guards of Jinwale Bar had seen Lin K 3 days ago. He was right here. He fought in an underground fight and left with injuries.
"He hasn't appeared since," said Vagar's subordinate, the bar owner on the surface.
"Injured?" Lu Cheng asked in surprise.
Although he had only taken a quick glance, he could see that both sides of the arena fight were limited to low-ranked Dan stage fighters. The surrounding audience didn't show any disdain either. Brother-in-law was an inhuman mighty one who had awakened his supernatural ability in advance.
How could he be injured in such a situation?
With his strength, no one in the crowd could have done it unless Vagar went up personally or bullied him with numbers. Vagar answered on behalf of his subordinate. Coincidentally, there was a powerful guy who fought in the arena a few days ago. A very mysterious and special guy. I believe that the strength he displayed was only a part of his true strength.
"Who was it?"
asked Lu Cheng calmly. Perhaps it was because of such an opponent that brother-in-law was excited and took the initiative to challenge him. Vagar gestured for his subordinate to bring over his laptop and replayed the highlights of the previous few matches.
As Lu Cheng watched, he gradually frowned. Lin K's opponent was really strange. He had blonde hair and blue eyes. He didn't have any expression from beginning to end. He was even more Lin K than Lin Quebec. Every punch and kick seemed to have been measured and controlled very well. He seemed to have reached the realm of God is watching you. However, he didn't show this in other aspects. He was strong and agile. However, he gave off a lifeless and inflexible feeling. At times, he even seemed to lack the ability to feel pain.
This is a little strange. Could brother-in-law's disappearance be related to him? Lu Cheng suddenly had a thought. Perhaps brother-in-law's disappearance wasn't because of the revenge of the human trafficking group, but because of some other unexpected incident. Otherwise, the experts of Shushan's study wouldn't be completely clueless. Who is he? Where is he? Asked Lu Cheng straightforwardly. Vagar tilted his head and looked at his subordinate. On the surface, the bar owner answered, I don't know who he is or what forces are behind him. However, I know where he lives. He lives in 172 San Jose Street, an apartment on the left side of the 5th floor. Thank you. Lu Cheng stood up and returned the chair to its original position. You can fulfill your payment now. Vagar stood up as well. His fists were glowing silver as if he was wearing heavy gloves. Lu Cheng looked up at him. He slowly raised his arm and clenched his fingers one by one. Bam! He threw a punch. The surface of his fist condensed and absorbed the surrounding light. His body grew brighter and brighter while the office grew darker. As the darkness deepened, the temperature dropped. Just as Vagar was about to dodge, a chilly wind entered his body. He couldn't help but shiver. The white before his eyes grew brighter and brighter, filling up the entire heaven and earth. Boom! His arms were forcibly opened, and streaks of silver-white electric snakes splashed everywhere. Bam, bam, bam. Vagar was sent flying. He crashed through 3 walls and landed heavily in the dust. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. His subordinates either drew their guns or clenched their fists. They were about to surround Lu Cheng. Let him go, shouted Vagar in a hoarse voice. Lu Cheng didn't even look at his subordinates. He had already turned around and left with his hands in his pockets. He had learned that punch from the god-slaying saber, Lu Yongyuan. Using the uniqueness of his Starry Universe style, he had used it more harmoniously and naturally than his opponent. It had a different feel, but it lacked the dominance that came from the heart. Vagar struggled to get up and watched as his opponent drifted away. After a long while he sighed. Is this the difference between me and him? Just one punch. Chapter 654. After leaving Jinwale Bar, Lu Cheng didn't head straight to San Jose Street. He had been on the move for Lin Kei's matter and hadn't eaten or drunk anything. His mouth was dry and his stomach was growling. Although he hadn't lost his ability to fight, he wasn't in peak condition either. His next target was a little strange. He couldn't be sure what kind of danger was lurking. He had to be fully prepared. Looking at the darkening sky, he condensed a piece of ice crystal and stuffed it into his mouth. He melted it with his tongue. It was cold, refreshing, and nourishing at the same time. According to the map given by the military, there should be a small food market nearby. It's open from 6 to 8. Lu Cheng muttered to himself. He scanned his surroundings slowly but didn't find any restaurants. There were less than 5 shops on the entire street that were still open. He didn't turn back to look for Vagar. Following his memory and occasionally looking at the map, he circled around to a ruin that seemed to have been bombed by a plane. The faint light of dusk shone in, blurring the shadows of the people hiding in the shadows. The stall owners came one after another from all directions and took up their assigned positions. They were fully armed and loaded with guns, for fear of encountering customers who would take risks out of desperation. Lu Cheng looked as far as he could. He saw hardtack, small bags of flour, and cans with Chinese labels on them. Can you give me 2 cans of beef? A 17 or 18-year-old girl with messy hair walked past Lu Cheng and stopped in front of a stall owner with a full beard. She stared at the tin box like a hungry wolf that had finally found its prey and couldn't bear to look away. With Lu Cheng's hearing, it wasn't hard to hear the sound of her swallowing. The stall owner glanced at her and chuckled in broken English. As long as you have Chinese or American notes, gold, and guns. I don't. The girl's voice trailed off. Then, as if she had made up her mind, she said, I can sleep with you. Just 2 cans of beef. The stall owner sized her up and finally said, Okay, but you have to wait until the end. Can you give me one first? Asked the girl anxiously. Come over here. The stall owner pointed to the seat beside him. You have to stay with me for 2 days. Okay. The young girl walked over and took an open can with her eyes shining. She didn't care about the knife and fork.
Kneeling down, she reached out and grabbed a piece of oily beef, stuffed it into her mouth, and wolfed it down. The stall owner patted her chest and buttocks as if he was measuring the goods and nodded in satisfaction. Seeing this scene, Lu Qing couldn't help but think of his cousins, Qi Yunfei, Chen Xiaoxiao, and Ma Shi. They were about the same age as the girl in front of him. They were busy with their studies. For a moment, Lu Cheng's emotions fluctuated as if there was something stuck in his throat. And... The stall owner was stunned for a few seconds. Then he quietly brought out a thick, big and black calculator and pressed it for a long time before he got the answer. He took out his wallet and emptied it with cash. He also took some of the gold from the military to pay the bill. Taking the food wrapped in the old newspaper, he tore open a can of beef that wasn't self-heating. Just as he was about to enjoy it, the stall owner kindly reminded him, "This can taste better if it's frozen." The jelly formed by the gravy. Gulp. The Jinwale bar on Tutun Street has a refrigerator and its own generator. You can borrow it if you pay a little. As he spoke, the stall owner couldn't help but lick his lips. Lu Qing nodded slowly. Holding the old newspaper with the rest of the food in one hand, he quickly froze the can with the other hand. With a shake of his wrist, a piece of beef and the jelly formed by the gravy flew into the air and into his mouth. Not bad. Lu Qing turned around and left while chewing. The stall owner was dumbfounded. Starting from the cold can. He wasn't a commoner who didn't know how to get food. He knew what this meant. This was the strongest of the strongest. Who would dare to take money from such people in the market? They wouldn't have the self-awareness to pay. This was the rule of Tignes, the universal rule. After a long time, he looked at Lu Cheng's back and then at his stall. He felt lucky. Lu Cheng found a random wall at the edge of the ruins and sat down. Without wasting any time, he started eating. When there were only 2 cans left, 5 packs of compressed biscuits, and 3 bottles of drinking water left, he wrapped them up again and walked out of the market. Along the way, he saw many children staring at the passers-by with pleading eyes, hoping to get some food. Lu Cheng sighed to himself and gave the rest of the food to different children. He didn't pay attention to their shocked expressions, nor did he care about the resulting disputes. This was the war-torn zone. 172 San Jose Street. The entrance was riddled with old bullet holes, and the nearby glass windows were mostly damaged. With both hands in his pockets, Lu Cheng walked up the mottled stairs step by step. His posture was calm and his expression was relaxed, as if he was an invited guest. Since he had formed the ice heart, his mind could sense the situation within a dozen meters around him. For physical invulnerability experts, after connecting heaven and earth, their mind would definitely mutate and cover a wider area. Similar abilities were a common trait. However, for those who had cultivated the enemy heart freezing move, the effects would be clearer and the range would be wider. When he passed by the 5th floor, Lu Qing didn't stop and continued to climb. Just as he brushed past the 5th floor, his heart lake reflected the scenes of the walls and the rooms. A tattered sofa, a table with all kinds of empty cans, some of which had not been thrown away for a long time and were even growing hair. No one here. Lu Qing nodded thoughtfully. He made a turn on the 6th floor and returned to the ground floor. He stood in the shadows and watched the entrance. It was already late at night. The street was dark without streetlights. Only the apartments on both sides were illuminated by candlelight. In China, such a street would have at least 2 barbecue stores, 1 braised food, 1 fried rice, and a 24-hour supermarket. The roadside would be filled with tables, aromas, and alcohol bottles. Such a scene can't be found now. After all, for the sake of environmental protection, for the sake of green and peace in this world, there's at most a 24-hour supermarket. Lu Cheng leaned against the wall with his hands in his pockets. He thought about the deserted and dilapidated surroundings. It was the same sky, but a different life. After an unknown period of time, his eyes suddenly focused on the mysterious expert in the video. He was wearing a black trench coat. His face was expressionless, and his green eyes were like those of a wild beast. After watching him enter 172, Lu Cheng wasn't in a hurry to follow. He waited for a while before stretching his muscles and decided to follow. At this moment, the mysterious expert with blonde hair and blue eyes came down again and walked to the other end of the street. Lu Cheng's heart of ice was clear. He spread his spirit and followed him from dozens of meters away with his hands in his pockets. He also used the secret method of cultivation. He turned left, walked straight, and turned right. The mysterious expert with blonde hair and blue eyes didn't seem to notice anything unusual. 10 minutes later, he came to a ruin in the suburbs. He could vaguely make out the shape of a factory. The buildings had collapsed, and the steel was scattered. Suddenly, the mysterious expert with blonde hair and blue eyes turned around like a whirlwind. His cold eyes were fixed on Lu Cheng. He can even detect this? Sure enough. It's a little weird. Lu Cheng thought calmly. Whoosh, whoosh. 2 people jumped down from the 2nd floor of the factory ruins. One was short, dark-skinned, with black hair and black eyes. The other had light yellow eyebrows and a single light blue eye. They either melted into the night or were muscular. They looked different, but they had the same temperament as the mysterious expert with blonde hair and blue eyes. Rigid, inflexible, not agile enough, strange and frightening. Seeing his companion blocking Lu Cheng's way, the expert with blonde hair and blue eyes said in a flat tone, "Detestable and troublesome stalker." After that, he looked at his 2 companions and continued in a monotonous voice. The Tigny Security Police's reaction time is 30 minutes. The City Defense Forces is 15 minutes, and the experts nearby are 5 minutes. Number 4, Number 6. End the battle in 5 minutes. Number 4. Number 6? Lu Cheng frowned slightly. He took out his right hand from his trouser pocket, the remaining coin in between his fingers. Clang! He flicked the coin into the air. Chapter 655. Number 4, Number 6. End the battle in 5 minutes. As the mysterious expert's voice fell, his companion underwent a miraculous change. The short, dark-skinned man who seemed to have blended into the night began to swell up like a balloon. Silver electric snakes flowed out of every muscle of his body, condensing into a terrifying lightning spear in his hand, causing the surrounding weeds to tremble. He took a step forward and blocked Lu Cheng's path of retreat. He stretched his back and opened his arms, ready to throw the bright silver lightning spear. Pa, pa, pa. The one-eyed man's muscles and bones opened up. His right arm was as thick as a cannon barrel, making his body look abnormally deformed. He was half a beat slower as he approached Lu Cheng in a layered manner. He imitated the launch of a missile and threw out a punch. The mysterious expert with blonde hair and blue eyes stood opposite Lu Cheng. He raised his arms, thumbs against thumbs, index finger against index finger, forming a cannon muzzle. Bzzzt! Blazing white light gathered within and circled rapidly. A dangerous aura spread out. This was an ability he had never displayed in the arena at Jin Whale Bar. It was an even more powerful ability. At this moment, a crisp sound rang out as a coin tumbled into the air. The 3 people surrounding Lu Cheng subconsciously raised their eyes to look at it, and the movements of their hands slowed slightly. Slowly, Lu Cheng moved his joints and took a step back. As he took a step forward with his left leg, he lowered his body and arched his back. Bzzzt! The exaggerated bright silver lightning spear landed where he was originally standing, a few feet deep into the ground. Rings of electric arcs spread out in all directions. Boom! The blazing white light was like a laser beam, piercing through the night and Lu Cheng's afterimage. It hit a distance away, creating a powerful explosion. Bam! The one-eyed man's fist landed on the void above Lu Cheng, dispersing the airflow and creating a strong gale. The one-eyed man's eyes narrowed. He moved his shoulders, intending to change from a punch to a chop to beat his enemy. However, the moment Lu Cheng lowered his body, the surrounding temperature dropped instantly, turning darker than darkness. Stars leaped out one after another, warming up the area. Bam! He straightened his back, swung his left arm diagonally, and struck the one-eyed man's fist. The starry sky reflected on the ground instantly enveloped his opponent. Fundamental unique skill, Cosmic Phantom. Layers of cold turned into ice, sealing the one-eyed man inside, causing his expression to freeze. Whoosh! Whoosh! Round after round of stars flew over, one after another, densely packed. Rumble! 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 Layers of flames overlapped, forming a huge mushroom and a cloud that spread out in all directions.
Taking advantage of the chaos, Lu Cheng turned his waist and moved to the side of the short, dark-skinned man. Amidst the smoke and explosions, he clenched his right hand into a fist, covered in light purple, and punched out heavily. The short, dark-skinned man didn't panic at all, as if he had completely lost his emotions. He raised his left arm, bent his elbow, and met Lu Cheng's fist with a fluttering silver snake. The blonde guy didn't look at the one-eyed man's end anymore. Facing the enemy's back, he slid forward and threw a punch. The blazing white light formed a pincer attack. At this moment, the coin that had been bounced into the air fell into the range of Lu Cheng's mind. With a gentle tug, the Emperor Yan's fire force contained within suddenly exploded. Rumble! With a flash of light, the blonde guy's eyes were filled with white. He felt a few pieces of debris shooting towards him. Instinctively, he lowered his head and extended his left hand to protect his vitals. The short, dark-skinned man's body and mind trembled, as if he was experiencing an uncontrollable knee-jerk reaction. Rumble! Lu Cheng's fist, which was covered with a faint purple flame, hit him on the elbow. The electric snake disintegrated, the skin was instantly charred, and the enemy was trembling all over. Under the force of the rebound and the pressure of the paralysis, he turned his waist and back. As if he was skating on ice, he nimbly turned to the back of the short dark-skinned man, causing the blonde guy to hit empty air. Bam! Lu Cheng stepped forward and pressed his knee, cutting off the short, dark-skinned man's ability to kick backward. At the same time, he extended his right hand and firmly pressed on his opponent's elbow joint. Bam! Lu Cheng swung his left arm and punched out. The light purple was restrained and looked like only a thin layer. The short, dark-skinned man couldn't block in the shock. He wanted to jump forward to avoid this fatal blow, but how could his speed be faster than a punch? Rumble! Lu Cheng's left fist landed squarely on the enemy's back. The enemy's flesh and blood immediately disintegrated. Pieces of flesh and blood flew in all directions, burning with flames. Plop! The short, dark-skinned man fell to the ground, leaving only his waist and lower body. Bam! 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 In the spreading mushroom cloud, more than a dozen pieces of charred flesh and melted and twisted metal proved the existence of the expert, the one-eyed man. The blonde guy stopped in his tracks, turned around, and fled without hesitation. He didn't look like he was about to collapse. It was as if he had judged the situation in an instant and made the right choice. At this moment, a deep solemn voice suddenly rang in his ears. Formation! The surrounding airflow transformed into layers of shackles, firmly imprisoning the blonde guy in place. His eyes were blazing white, as if there were turbines pressurizing in his body, trying to break the shackles by force. Lu Cheng caught up with him in one step. He shook his arms and stretched out his hands. They passed through the cage and clasped the shoulders of the blonde guy. He suddenly turned his waist and back, lifting and shaking his palms. Kacha! Kacha! The sound of joints falling off and bones cracking could be heard from the blonde guy's body. The condensed blazing white dissipated helplessly, turning into light and shadow. With one strike, this mysterious expert turned into a pile of mud without the support of bones. At this moment, the coin fragments fell to the ground in different directions. Lu Cheng didn't waste any time. While watching the blonde guy fall to the ground, he concentrated on the ancient words in his mind, outlining the blood-evil qi. Army! He said coldly and sternly, imprinting a sharp and terrifying feeling on the unguarded mind of the blonde guy. Lu Cheng thought the guy would break down instantly, lose control of his bodily fluids, and answer whatever he asked. Unexpectedly, the guy didn't react at all, as though he wasn't afraid at all. Strange indeed, Lu Cheng muttered to himself. He switched to the secret arts of the fire sect and the secret arts of the cultivators, but it was still useless. Whether it was mental intimidation or forced hypnosis, it was like facing a corpse. Seeing this, he thought of something. He pressed between his eyebrows and directly used his strong mind to attack the guy. Over and over again, after a total of 9 times, Lu Cheng suddenly heard an illusory shattering sound. The blonde guy finally showed a pained expression. He rolled with difficulty and roared in a low voice. Let me go, let me go. Who am I, who am I? Lu Cheng watched quietly, squatted down, took out Lin Kei's photo, and hung it in front of the guy. His voice went straight into the guy's ear. Where did you take him? The blonde guy's condition clearly wasn't suitable for step-by-step questioning. He simply assumed that the guy had something to do with his brother-in-law's disappearance. He boldly hypothesized and carefully verified it. The blonde guy, who was still groaning in pain, followed the question and looked at the photo. He was stunned for a moment. Number 16. It was number 16. He was originally a terror-level expert. I am number 5. No, I am not. His voice trailed off and his eyes were unfocused, hiding the sluggishness as though his head had been hit hard. Where did you send him? Lu Cheng was delighted, but immediately tensed up. He asked in a low voice. My brother-in-law's disappearance really has something to do with these mysterious guys using numbers as code names. The blonde-haired, blue-eyed man gasped for breath. Base, Tigny's Northport base. Before he could finish, something seemed to have been triggered. Blazing white flowed in his body and exploded silently. Lu Cheng couldn't stop it in time. After the blazing white disappeared, the blonde guy curled up even more painfully. Every muscle seemed to have gained its own spirituality, dancing on their own. Ah! Amidst his screams, his waist shriveled, and the muscles on his back bulged. 2 new arms covered in scales grew out. Genetic breakdown. Lu Cheng muttered to himself. He stopped trying to save the guy and gave him a quick death. After the blonde guy died, his muscles, tendons, and bones were still changing. But in less than a minute, everything turned into a bloody pulp. In an apartment in Tigny's, a brown-haired man with chiseled features sat on the sofa. He stared blankly at the blank TV screen, deep in thought. He wore a green and white baseball uniform with a large number written on the back. 16. Suddenly, his eyelids twitched. There seemed to be a flash of light in his eyes, as though he was equipped with a retina-based communication device. The signal sources of number 4 and number 6 have disappeared. The blocking program of number 5 has been activated. The old man in the green and white baseball uniform stood up abruptly and looked towards the outskirts of the city. The signal source of number 5 has disappeared as well. Narrowing his eyes, the man walked to the window, pressed his palm and leaped out. He clearly had terrifying strength. He believed that he didn't have to fear anyone in Tigny's. Even if he couldn't beat them, he could still escape. Lu Cheng looked at the bloody pulp on the ground. After a few seconds of silence, he took out the satellite phone from his backpack and called Grandpa G. Hello. Senior G. I found a clue to Lin Kei's disappearance. Can you come over? Sure. Ji Zhenjiang didn't ask for details. He trusted Lu Cheng fully. P.S. This picture was updated at 12:30 p.m., but Qi Dian's back-end drew it. Looking for recommendation tickets on Monday. Chapter 656. Putting away the satellite phone, Lu Cheng examined the 3 corpses again, trying to find the source of their strangeness. Among them, the one-eyed man had been hit head-on by Universe Phantom. All that was left of him was charred black, and his original appearance couldn't be discerned. The molten and twisted metal might have come from his clothes, his pockets, or something else. As for the blonde man, he was reduced to a pile of flesh and blood, making him easier to investigate than the other man who only had half his body left. Pressing his thumb, Lu Cheng used the technique of Ice Spirit Holy Light to form a crystalline long sword. He stabbed it into the flesh and blood in front of him. He poked and stirred, cooperating with the senses of God above my head. His mind was calm and clear. Suddenly, he discovered tiny silver-white particles hidden in the corpses. They shone with a faint metallic glow and covered every inch of the flesh. Nanomachines. Lu Cheng thought of what he had seen at the military base. He muttered to himself, half surprised and half guessing. From there, he considered more possibilities. Since the other party had this level of technology, the 3 enemies with numbers as code names might have other devices on them. Perhaps their deaths would be detected in another way. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Lu Cheng surveyed his surroundings and retreated to the factory ruins 20 to 30 meters away. He hid behind a half-collapsed wall with reinforced steel protruding from it. He withdrew his qi and blood, activated his secret technique, and leaned against the wall like an invisible person. Using the reflections of the shattered glass and the vision of God above my head, he monitored the battlefield. He suspected that the people from the mysterious organization already knew about the incident here and would most likely come to investigate. Therefore, he didn't want his presence to cause the other party to retreat and cut off the clues. In the information provided by the military, there was no mention of North Harbor Base. If Kuka's grandparents arrived first, he would give them a heads up and ask them to hide as well. A few minutes later, Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat. He felt the atmosphere around him become heavier. He cautiously retracted his spirit and no longer looked down from above. Instead, he observed the entrance of the factory ruins through the broken glass. After counting silently for a few seconds, he saw a blurry figure from the corner of his eyes. It was a figure wearing a green and white baseball uniform. The man with the number 16 emblazoned on his back walked closer step by step in his high-top black combat boots. He stood in front of the few remaining pieces of the one-eyed man's body. Laser beams gathered in his eyes on his well-defined, deeply wrinkled but expressionless face. Lu Cheng didn't wait any longer, in case there were more accidents. He concealed his breath and distorted the light around him. He took a step forward cautiously, intending to launch an attack. However, just as he moved, the brown-haired man immediately turned sideways and faced the half-collapsed building. What a strong sensing ability. It's like he's equipped with a radar. Lu Cheng narrowed his eyes, straightened his back, and walked out with an imposing manner. Since he couldn't launch a surprise attack, then he would have to attack head-on. The person with the number 16 on his back suddenly saw a young man in navy blue clothes appear from the darkness. His hands hung down naturally, and his eyes were dark and deep. His footsteps were neither too big nor too small, neither too light nor too heavy, as though he was stepping on his own heart. One step, two steps. Number 16 felt his surroundings become more distant and blurry. He felt as though he had been forcefully pulled out of this world and was floating alone and helplessly in the boundless starry sky. His surroundings were as dark as a curtain, dotted with diamond-like stars. It was dreamy and grand, making all living things seem exceptionally small. His opponent stood in the middle, his navy blue eyes deep and profound, as though he was a god who controlled the universe and looked down on all living things. Around him, a scarlet-red halo first appeared, flying in an ellipse with the longest trajectory. Immediately after, a faint purple halo shone above his head, a golden halo hung behind his head, and a blazing white and light blue halo formed a circle, sometimes on the left and sometimes on the right. It wasn't until the sense of danger hit him that number 16 came to his senses. He realized that he was at a disadvantage in the mental battle and the exchange of auras. As a result, he missed the best opportunity to attack when his opponent wasn't ready. He didn't have emotions, but that didn't mean he didn't rely on his mental strength or other methods. His eyes unwavering, number 16 raised his hands coldly and opened every pore on his palms. Pure and dazzling light gushed out. The light gathered in an instant and blasted out with a boom. Like two long dragons crossing the darkness, they opened their mouths and swallowed the stars. At the same time, number 16 swung his waist and back, dodging to Lu Cheng's side with a bang. He lifted his thigh, hurriedly swung his knee, and shook his ankle. He forcefully kicked out a crescent-shaped blade light, silently slashing at his opponent. He had completely displayed the strength of a terror-grade expert. In his eyes, Lu Cheng seemed to have anticipated this. With a simple sidestep, he dodged the laser cannons, causing them to fall into the ruins of the factory behind him. They pierced through layers of half-collapsed walls, causing the tottering buildings to collapse with a boom. With this as a backdrop, his opponent shook his right arm and turned it into an iron whip, ruthlessly lashing out at him. The blazing white, faint purple, and other fireballs danced and gathered, smashing down as well. He didn't care about the crescent. A dark green light flashed in number 16's eyes. He bent his waist and bounced to the side. As though there were springs under his feet, he flew higher and higher. Seeing this, Lu Cheng abruptly stomped his feet into the ground. This caused his knees to straighten and his back to rotate rapidly. Like a spear, he pressed his tail and turned his whipping right arm into an upward swing, causing the gathered 5 flames to rise gradually. Attracted by the heavy Virokana, the crescent moon distorted and collapsed. When it landed on Lu Cheng's body, it only managed to cut through the layer of crystalline ice. The 5 flames shot out rapidly and chased after number 16 into the air. Rumble! A huge blazing white fireball bloomed in the air, spraying flowing magma and brilliant fireworks in all directions. The intense light engulfed number 16 in an instant, and the terrifying sound shattered the remaining glass on San Jose Street. Strong winds swept and danced, sending sparks flying. Number 16's figure appeared high up in the air. His clothes were in tatters, his pants turned to ash, and his body was charred and dented. If he hadn't used the beam shield at the last moment and teleported to avoid the core of the explosion, he would have been severely injured at the very least. At this very moment, number 16 was hovering in the air, showing no signs of descending. One of his abilities was flight. The flight of a physical invulnerability expert. Lu Chang had locked onto him and suppressed him mentally, so he couldn't immediately rise into the air. He was afraid that the slightest movement would cause him to be struck by lightning. He could only take the initiative to attack and create an opportunity. This way, he would be in a position where he had no chance of losing and could also exhaust his opponent's terrifying killer move. He didn't expect his opponent to control the 9 rotations of 5 flames so well that he could change his move halfway. Number 16 pressed his right hand against his left palm and extended it forward. A dark green light flashed in his eyes as he locked onto Lu Cheng's figure. Mortar. Modified. Boom. A blazing white beam shot out from his left palm and blasted towards Lu Cheng on the ground. Boom. 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 One after another, the blazing white beams shot out, covering the surrounding area as though they were plowing the ground. Lu Cheng used the mesmerizing snow steps and the all-seeing god to change directions and avoid the cannon fire. At the same time, he stirred up a strong wind to blow the blazing white beams off their tracks. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Rumble rumble rumble. While Lu Cheng was dodging, he wasn't idling either. Occasionally, he would flick his fingers and shoot out beams of cold light into the air. Other times, he would quickly condense crimson fireballs to bombard his opponent. Number 16 was like a fighter jet, either soaring, circling, or coming to a sudden stop to avoid his opponent's counterattack. The two were in a deadlock for a while. Suddenly, number 16 condensed a laser beam and shot it from the device in his eyes towards Lu Cheng at lightning speed. However, Lu Cheng already had a premonition of danger. Before the laser beam was released, he shifted his position and allowed the 2 beams of green light to shoot into the ground, leaving deep holes. Number 16 knew that the commotion just now would attract attention. Seeing that he couldn't take down his opponent in a hurry, he decided to retreat and flew out of the ruins of the factory. Without the suppression of the cannon fire, Lu Cheng glanced at the half-broken pillar in the ruins. He wanted to use the momentum to soar into the air and use the formation formula to keep his opponent here. At that moment, number 16 saw a middle-aged woman with a long sword in her hand. Her hair was tied up in a bun and she looked graceful as she approached him. Immediately after, a meteor streaked across the sky, illuminating the darkness. With a long tail of light, it smashed into his body and filled his vision. A strong suction force came from it and slowed down number 16's sudden stop and change of direction. Bam! Lu Cheng ran at high speed and jumped up. Kicking off the top of the half-broken pillar, he leaped into the air and formed a hand seal. Formation. P.S. Looking for recommendation tickets and monthly tickets on Mondage. Chapter 657. Number 16 was already having trouble changing directions due to the strong attractive force. Now that the formation was on him, he froze in midair and could no longer avoid the brilliant meteor with a tail of light. All he could do was drive every cell in his body to produce a repulsive force that converged into an indistinct light shield. With a whoosh, the meteor grew larger and larger. Its surface burned with flames due to the high-speed friction with the atmosphere, bursting into an even more dazzling light. Only when it was within reach and was about to touch number 16's body did number 16's pupils reflect the man and the sword. Boom! The meteor swallowed the enemy in its brilliance. The flames rolled back and bloomed layer by layer like a blooming red lotus, beautiful but dangerous. The 6th move of the fighting sect, Flame Meteor. Whoosh! 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 Rays of light scattered. Number 16 fell from the sky in a sorry state. His body was covered with sword marks and many bloody holes. Before he could rise again, a sword light rushed over and slashed wildly. 7 luminaries star, Do Ning. Puff puff puff. The sound of a blunt knife cutting through flesh rang out continuously. The densely packed sounds made one's teeth ache. Number 16, who had not yet adjusted himself, was unable to block all of the attacks with his fists, kicks and laser cannons. He was forcibly knocked back and almost split into several pieces. Dou Ning's attacks had just eased when number 16 felt the ground shake. Lu Cheng's powerful figure appeared in his eyes. His fists were full of fire and each move was heavy and terrifying. Bam! 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 Lu Cheng whipped his arm, hit him with short bursts, stabbed him with the great spear, and bombarded him with cannon punches. He completely suppressed number 16 and lit his opponent like a torch. Bam! Bam! After a series of moves, he bent his body and slid half a step forward to avoid number 16's block. Then he straightened his back and punched upwards as if he was going to soar into the sky. Bam! He punched number 16's chest and abdomen, shattering his remaining light shield and taking him to the sky. Lu Cheng took advantage of number 16's dizziness to reach out his left hand and grab him. Then he twisted his legs and wrapped his right arm to imprison all of number 16's joints and freeze his body. Straightening his back and exploding his flame force, Lu Cheng changed his direction and pressed his opponent down like a human-shaped meteorite. Rumble! The ground cracked and a crater was formed. Number 16 was lying in the middle, foaming at the mouth. His body twitched and twitched, but there was not a single piece of intact skin to be found. He also lacked the bones to support him to stand up. The lean Ji Zhenjiang approached. He watched as Lu Cheng stood up and pointed his long sword at number 16's forehead. As long as he exerted his strength, the enemy would definitely be smashed into pieces and die without a complete corpse. It's him. Taking a closer look, Ji Zhenjiang said in surprise. Senior, do you know him? Lu Cheng asked in surprise. Ji Zhenjiang frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, he's an American and has been roaming this area since 30 or 40 years ago. He's famous for his flying ability. It's said that only he can hit people, and no one can hit him. But if you walk by the river often, how can you not wet your shoes? How many bombers had been shot down? I heard that he was seriously injured a few years ago and died. I didn't expect him to still be alive. He doesn't seem to recognize me. His eyes don't seem right. Did he lose his memory? His state of being alive is a little strange. Dou Ning, with her hair in a high bun and graceful bun, sensed that something was wrong. Lu Cheng quickly recounted the problems he discovered and the results of the interrogation. Starting from number 16's nationality, he connected the dots and had a rough idea. Ji Zhenjiang and Dou Ning looked at each other and said in unison, "Artificial weapons project?" Ji Zhenjiang frowned and said, "That's not right. I've never heard of them having a base in Tignes. It's a little different from the artificial weapons project I know." Dou Ning nodded in agreement. Listening to the conversation between Kuka's grandpa and grandma and feeling their tacit understanding, Lu Cheng suddenly felt that he was unnecessary here. He pondered for a few seconds and said, "Maybe it's a branch research, a new secret base." Yeah, no matter what, he's in their hands. Dou Ning's tone turned stern as she looked at Ji Zhenjiang. Let's find out the exact location of that North Harbor base. Number 16 was at the Terra grade. His willpower was firm, his mind was strong, and he seemed to have been brainwashed. Lu Cheng and the Ji family elders took turns to use their secret arts to slap him. It took them a good few minutes to break him down. Once he broke down, number 16, who had lost his past experience, could no longer develop the will of a physical invulnerability expert. With the blonde man as an example, Lu Cheng didn't dare to ask directly. Instead, he shared his concerns with Ji Zhenjiang and Dou Ning. That's easy. Ji Zhenjiang pointed his sword downwards and plunged it into number 16's throat. However, it only went in a little and didn't damage the trachea or arteries. BZZT, BZZT, BZZT. As yin and yang circulated, a magnetic field enveloped the surroundings, interfering and distorting most of the signal sources in number 16's body. Where's North Harbor base? Asked Lu Cheng in English with a Connecticut accent. Number 16's nerve signals seemed to be in disarray. After a moment of silence he answered, underneath the Hako Machinery Corporation. Corporation. A joint research project between America and Japan. Ji Zhenjiang came to a realization. Following that, Lu Cheng asked about the whole story. North Harbor Base's secret research had achieved a breakthrough and was in urgent need of dangerous grade materials to verify the results. There weren't many such experts, but there weren't many of them. Within a short period of time, The base couldn't find any and their preparations were about to be scrapped. Therefore, the person in charge sent number 4, 5, and 6 to fight in the underground boxing ring and challenge arena masters to see if they could lure out a lone dangerous grade expert. 2 days later, they encountered Lin Quebec. After the arena battle ended, number 16 secretly knocked him out and took him away. After he was sent back to the base, due to the lack of accurate information, they assumed that this dangerous grade young man didn't have a powerful background. Therefore, they happily put Lin K on the experiment table. Also, according to number 16, there were still number 17 and 18 in the base who were more powerful than him. Ji Zhenzhong retracted his sword with his right hand, extended his left palm, and grabbed number 16 out of thin air. He sighed in self-reproach. We were all prejudiced by first impressions and thought that it was the revenge of the human trafficking organization. In the end, it was just a coincidence. No wonder we couldn't find any clues and let K suffer, as he sighed. He looked at Lu Chang and nodded gently. It's all thanks to you. Let's go. I want to see what they're researching, said Do Ning with a cold face, no longer as elegant as usual. Lu Chang didn't say much. He followed behind the old couple and left the factory ruins on the outskirts of the city. They arrived at Tigny's North Harbor. This place was backed by a large river and was an important node for the transportation of many resources. Even in the middle of the night, lights and neon lights could be seen. It was a stark contrast to most of the areas that lacked electricity. The corporation that number 16 mentioned was located near the warehouse area. It was a small 3-story building on the outside, but underground was a large experimental area. Those who disguised themselves as security guards were all elite special forces soldiers who had seen blood. However, in front of 3 physical invulnerability experts, they couldn't resist at all. Before they could even react, they were crushed by Lu Cheng's simplified army formula. Snot and tears streamed down their faces as they didn't dare to make a sound. Without wasting time dealing with this group of people, Ji Zhenzhong found the entrance to the underground. Lifting number 16, he opened the door with his iris. As soon as the door opened a crack, Ji Zhenzhong leaped into the room like a shooting star. Along the way, he swung his sword at one guard after another. Do Ning held her sword and stood at the side, guarding against any accidents. Lu Chang, who seemed redundant, was at the back. He bulged his muscles and destroyed part of the door's mechanism, making it unable to close again. He was afraid that he would be trapped underground and get hit by a huge bomb in an enclosed space. Thump! Ji Zhenzhong stopped at the end of the tunnel. The guard who was first hit by his sword had just fallen to the ground. Do Ning left one alive to destroy his mental state. She asked if there were any experiments tonight and where they would be held. Currently, the focus of the North Harbor base was on the matter number 16 mentioned. Wherever there were experiments, Lin K would be there. Turning into the inner path of the base, the Ji family's 2 elders attacked together and separately. They didn't let a single obstacle delay their journey, nor did they give the other party a chance to trigger the alarm. As the sword light moved further and further away, the figures gradually fell. Lu Chang, who was following behind them, felt like he was watching a movie. Along the way, Ji Zhenzhong used number 16 to complete all the doors that required identity verification. 3 minutes later, they finally saw the main laboratory and the rigid mighty ones guarding outside. They wore armbands with 8 and 10 written on them. You go in first. While Ji Zhenzhong was transmitting his voice to Lu Cheng, he threw number 16 at the door to attract the attention of the guards. Whoosh! Sword light flashed. 2 shooting stars whizzed out and slashed at number 8 and 10, completely enveloping them. Lu Cheng, who had been ready, pounced at the door, grabbed number 16 in midair, and sent him to the verification area. Beep, beep, beep. The heavy doors separated. Lowering his waist and tilting his shoulder, he rammed into the door, not giving the person inside a chance to react. Bam! A hole appeared in the metal door, and the alarm rang throughout the laboratory. As soon as Lu Cheng entered, his ice heart immediately shone on his surroundings. He locked onto Lin K, who was pinned to the metal bed. His face was contorted in pain, and his body was full of instruments. Parts of his body were exposed to the white bones and bloody flesh. Next to him was a man holding a cutting knife and wearing a lab uniform. Anger rose in Lu Cheng's heart. He arched his back, lowered his hands, and shook his wrists to the sides. A cluster of light purple flames flew close to the ground, silently igniting the devices and the bodies, causing them to scream in agony. On the other side, a cold light moved forward, freezing several lab members from the soles of their feet to their heads, turning them into ice sculptures. Bam! Lu Cheng stirred up a strong gust of wind and used ground shrink to rush to Lin Kei's side. Only then did he secretly heave a sigh of relief. The remaining lab members were scared out of their wits and hurriedly retreated. Chapter 658. Compared to number 16, number 18 was more lively and natural. She smiled before speaking and didn't look like one of the test subjects at all. If they had met elsewhere, Lu Cheng would definitely have noticed the strangeness and uniqueness of number 4, number 6, and even number 16. However, he would most likely have treated number 18 as a normal physical invulnerability expert. Perhaps this is why number 16 thinks she's stronger. With an elder by his side, Lu Cheng didn't act on his own accord despite his anger. Instead, he thought of other problems to maintain his ice heart. Hearing number 18's words, the lean and elegant Ji Zhenjiang looked deeply at her. He glanced at Lin Kei from the corner of his eye and laughed. I haven't traveled in Jianghu for many years. Looks like everyone in this war-torn zone has forgotten the name of the heaven-leaning sword. Let's have a discussion. We'll consider how to apologize and compensate you after this. As he spoke, his smile faded and his tone turned sinister. At the last word, he flicked the tip of his sword. Clang! A dragon's roar soared into the sky and reverberated throughout the entire main laboratory. It shook the ears of the remaining researchers in protective gear, and immediately plunged them into a world of silence. The sound of the sword entered their ears and a radiance erupted. Thin rays of light first sprang up like a fountain and then sprinkled down, covering number 18. It had a strong suction force that made it difficult for the enemy to move. Some even wanted to throw themselves into the trap like moths to a flame. The Yin-Yang Magnetic Ray Sword. The sword cuts the body and the magnetic field destroys the instrument. This was the most effective way to deal with the products of man-made weapons projects. However, number 18's thoughts and reactions were like those of a normal physical invulnerability expert. She wasn't affected at all. The fact that her previous suggestion was rebutted made her squint her eyes. She was no different from an ordinary person when she hid her anger in the stars. Her eyes sparkled and she instantly regained her composure. She didn't force herself to move. Instead, she placed her hands on the edge of the long experiment table and leaned back. Her dangling right leg followed the suction force and swung upwards. The blazing light formed a knife and slashed towards the core of the sword aura fountain. But the moment Ji Zhenjiang drew his sword, or even the moment he spoke, Dou Ning had already made her preparations. She took a step forward, squatted down, and stabbed the ancient long sword that shone with clear moonlight into the ground, spreading out a heavy and gloomy glow. The surrounding concrete immediately cracked, as if it had been weathered for a long time and was extremely dry. The remaining experimental personnel who were shocked by the sword's sound had their feet stuck to the ground, trembling non-stop. Their skin dried up inch by inch, as if their blood and water were being sucked away. The dim light was either heavy or light, causing the gravitational force in this area to be unbalanced. It pulled number 18's movement in the opposite direction, causing her razor-like right foot to be somewhat sluggish. Her cooperation with Ji Zhenjiang's sword was flawless, showing the tacit understanding that had been settled for decades. The eighth move of the fighting sect, Wither Desolation, Silent Earth. There were 3 stages to this killer move. First, it would extract the surrounding water, including the ground and the living beings that were attached to it. Next, it would simulate a certain degree of gravity to disturb and influence the enemy. Finally, it would trigger an earthquake at a locked location and release the gathered energy. These 3 stages could be used separately and only one of them could be used. After mastering the sequence, it could be changed according to one's will. Clang, clang, clang. The light of the razor split apart the rain of swords, and accurately blocked Ji Zhenjiang's blade. However, due to the pull, it was a little slower. Many of the lights escaped the net and were continuously slashed by them. If number 18 hadn't formed a shield in time to resist the damage, she would have been covered in cuts and bruises. Clang! Dou Ning straightened her back and stood up. She took the opportunity to pull out her sword. From left to right, she slashed at her opponent lightly, but the suction force was obvious.
Beside her, the experimental personnel wearing protective suits fell to the ground like dominoes. Their faces were filled with fear, like specially made dried corpses. Ji Zhenjiang's wrist shook. His long sword was half-hooked. From right to left, it was so heavy that it felt like he was carrying 1,000 kilograms of weight. However, it felt like he was pushing someone. One sucking and one repulsing, one pulling and one pushing. The two sword techniques complemented each other and enveloped number 18. Lu Cheng stood beside the metal bed and didn't interfere rashly. A battle between physical invulnerability experts took up an extraordinary amount of space and range. If one didn't have long practice of cooperation and forcefully helped, it would affect the footwork and moves of the two seniors. 1 + 2 might be less than 2. Under such circumstances, the best way to work together was to take turns attacking the enemy, one after another. It was just like his experience with Ran Li. Unfortunately, the two of them had been in the martial arts world together for many years and had a tacit understanding of each other. They didn't leave any gaps for others to interfere. It feels like an unnecessary onlooker. The thought flashed through his mind, but he didn't relax at all. Since number 18 is here, what about number 17? What about number 17, whom number 16 thought was stronger than him? Is he also in the base and rushing over after hearing the commotion? Or is he hiding somewhere, waiting for a chance to deal a fatal blow? With such concerns hanging at the back of his mind, Lu Cheng completely gave up on the idea of attacking number 18. While blocking the aftermath of the battle between physical invulnerability experts to prevent the immobile Lin Ke from being accidentally injured, he used the ice heart to reflect his surroundings and check on his brother-in-law's condition. Lin Ke's pain eased, and Lu Cheng's figure was reflected in his slightly cloudy eyes. He was stunned for 2 seconds before he remembered who he was. His tense muscles relaxed, and his eyelids drooped, covering that fleeting moment of weakness. When he opened his eyes again, his emotions had returned to normal. 2 sparks of light appeared at the bottom of the dark pool. His dry lips moved with difficulty, and his throat bobbed up and down a few times. However, he couldn't make a sound. From the shape of his mouth, he was clearly saying, Thank you. Lu Cheng felt a lump in his throat. He hurriedly looked for a way to deactivate the various devices. He wasn't proficient in such matters, so he didn't dare to do it right away. He was afraid that he would destroy some important device and cause his brother-in-law's condition to worsen. He glanced at the area facing away from the battlefield and glanced at the researchers who had turned into ice sculptures. With a press of his right hand, an unbreakable ice wall formed beside the metal bed to block the aftermath of the battle between physical invulnerability experts. With a leap, Lu Cheng pounced to the side of a researcher who seemed to be the leader. With his left palm burning with faint purple flames, he slapped the other party's shoulder. Drip, drip, drip. The ice wall melted. The researcher's face turned green as he trembled. Unfortunately, what awaited him wasn't Yen Yuan, but a simplified army formula. The researcher broke down instantly. He was dragged to the metal bed by Lu Cheng for a consultation. He spilled everything he knew, including the number of one-night stands he had. Pressing and pulling, Lu Cheng quickly deactivated the devices on Lin Ke's body. Just as he was done, he was startled. He turned around and looked at the door. A figure was approaching with a trail of light. Noticing Lu Cheng's gaze, he paused. His blonde hair was parted in the middle, and his pupils were crimson red as if they were burning. He wore a white t-shirt with the number 17 on it and a black jacket. His hands, which were placed in front of him, were surrounded by fiery snakes. They weren't damaged at all. It's the 17th. Lu Cheng felt relieved, but he had more worries. The main laboratory wasn't small, but it wasn't big either. He had to take care of his brother-in-law, who didn't have any defensive abilities. He wouldn't be able to fight to his heart's content. Looking at number 17, he wasn't an easy opponent to deal with. Amidst his thoughts, Lu Cheng quickly made a decision. He leaned back and pressed with his palm, sealing Lin Ke in layers of ice and leaving some breathing holes. This way, as long as Grandpa Ku and Grandma Ku could get rid of number 18 as soon as possible, the impact on brother-in-law would be under control. He had to choose the lesser of two evils. With Lu Cheng's move, number 17 moved as well. He crouched like a leopard on the hunt and pounced. He clenched his fists and placed them beside him,
covered in golden red flames. With a push, Lu Cheng also rushed forward, his right fist burning with a faint purple flame, tightly wrapped around it. Under the control of the god above his head, the anger in his heart leaked out little by little, adding fuel to the Lord Emperor's purple flames. Boom! The fists collided and an explosion sounded. The researchers, who were paralyzed like mud, were sent flying and slammed into the wall. Their bones were broken, and blood spurted from their mouths. It was obvious they wouldn't survive. Lu Cheng didn't have the slightest bit of sympathy for this kind of people who experimented on innocent and involuntary people. In fact, he even wanted to burn them to the ground. Faint purple and golden red flames splashed, igniting parts of the equipment and activating the smoke alarms. The newest fire-extinguishing material scattered. Amidst the smoke and fire, Number 17 and Lu Cheng's fists reverberated at the same time. One retreated with his left shoulder and advanced with his right, bending his elbow and smashing down. The other retracted his right fist and advanced with his left, still covered in purple flames. In an instant, Lu Cheng opened his fist and extended his 5 fingers. His palm firmly held Number 17's elbow. Number 17's elbow suddenly sank. He swung his forearm and used the force to punch. The golden red flames spun and erupted. Just as he was about to move, Lu Cheng's palm on Number 17's elbow suddenly shook, dispersing the force of his opponent's punch. He shook Number 17 a few steps back and let the purple flames flow over. At the same time, he tilted his head slightly and dodged most of the golden red flames. The remaining flames didn't leave a single burn mark on his face. It was as though he was playing with his cat. Number 17 shook his forearm and let the purple flames fall to the ground. They softened the ground and left a black mark. Both of them were experts at controlling fire. P.S. Looking for recommendation votes, monthly votes. Chapter 659. Shaking off the purple flames, Number 17 took a step forward, raised his right leg, and lashed out at Lu Cheng's head. It was fast and ferocious, like the assault of fire. Lu Cheng lowered his body and stepped out diagonally. While avoiding the kick, he took advantage of the fact that Number 17 was standing on one leg with his right hand hanging down. With a hook and shake, he threw out a cluster of light purple flames that slithered close to the ground. It burned silently with hidden power. Even a master of fire control would be burned and melted by it. This was the manifestation of ice burning, the essence of the 5th move of the fire sect: burning mountain, evaporating lake. Number 17 missed with his kick. Exerting strength from his waist, he leaped into the air, causing the cluster of light purple flames to rush to the side of the wall. As it soared, it softened and warped the upright silver-white metal. Bending his back in midair, Number 17 released himself like a titan's spring. He straightened his body abruptly and lightly kicked out with his left leg. The kick seemed casual and natural, but it was just right. It was so heavy that Lu Cheng couldn't help but sway forward to receive it. Creak! Lu Cheng circulated his qi and blood, stimulating his body. Using the simplified fighting formula, he expanded his muscles and resisted the suction force with his explosive strength. He threw a punch. Bam! His fist landed squarely on the sole of Number 17's foot, causing the black military boots to flutter like butterflies. They either fell into the flames or drifted to the ground. Number 17 used the force to bounce back. Before he could regain his footing, he saw Lu Cheng pouncing at him at lightning speed. His right fist was unusually heavy and covered in purple flames. It was like the majestic hand of a legendary emperor that could encompass heaven and earth. Simplified attainment formula. His heart stirred slightly. Number 17's eyes glowed green. The light quickly gathered and shot at Lu Cheng's head. Laser beam cannon. You're fast, but I'm faster. This was a high-tech device that only Number 16, Number 17, and Number 18 could use. It was inseparable from their own unique abilities. Even if the other codenames obtained it, they wouldn't be able to activate it. Even these 3 terror-grade mighty ones couldn't use it consecutively. Their bodies and equipment couldn't take it if they used it too often. Lu Cheng threw a punch, but he suddenly sensed danger. He collapsed his shoulder, pulled his arm, and forcefully changed the direction of his punch to a downward smash, causing his body to fall forward. Whoosh! The 2 beams of green light hit the opposite silver-white wall and directly penetrated it, leaving a hole. Before Lu Chang could straighten his body, number 17 rushed forward, swinging his right arm and punching downwards with his clenched fist. With 2 bangs, he continuously hammered down with both hands. The half-simplified version of the formation formula wasn't as effective as the complete version. It lasted only half a breath before it was smashed and burned by Lu Cheng's fist. However, Lu Cheng had already bent his back, dodging the remaining force of the immortal bird fist. At the same time, the deep, dark universe and dazzling stars appeared around him. This move was both a counterattack and a counterattack. It was brilliant. Following which, he crossed his hands and swung them at number 17 from below like a sledgehammer. He straightened his body and stared at number 17 with his eyes fixed. Number 17 clenched his left fist and hammered it down. The moment he came into contact with Lu Cheng's hands, his body seemed to have become weightless. He took advantage of the momentum and fell back, half blocking and half parrying. He had just taken a step back when the dreamy, boundless starry sky enveloped him, turning the surroundings dark and cold with layers of ice. Number 17 was sealed in the transparent coffin and couldn't move for a moment. The stars whizzed over like rocket launchers, smashing into the ice layer one after another. They first blasted open the crystal and then flew toward number 17 one after another. Boom, boom, boom. The densely packed explosions almost merged into one, and the resulting shockwaves shattered more than half of the ice wall around Lin Quebec. Number 17's figure appeared amidst the scattered flames and smoke. He had a mixture of red and white liquid at the corner of his mouth. His clothes were tattered and riddled with holes. His flesh was charred black. With the defense of his shield and his control of flames, his injuries weren't too serious. However, in his eyes, Lu Cheng's surroundings were already swirling with faint purple, light blue, and scarlet. Furthermore, they were still condensing into gold and white. Bam! Lu Cheng took a step forward and struck out with his palm. Number 17 was about to block with his fist, dodge the condensation, and counterattack. However, just as he raised his arm, a green light flashed in his eyes as though he had sensed something. He forcibly used Flame Leap and moved horizontally with a bang. The change in direction was too steep, causing many of the wounds on number 17's body to split open and bleed. It's a pity he didn't take the bait and block the lament of the Ice Queen head-on. Lu Cheng changed his mind and continued attacking his enemy. At this moment, number 18 let out a scream of fear. Then, Lu Cheng's eyes were filled with the radiance of the sword. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. As the sword flashed, the sound of flesh being cut rang out continuously. Ji Zhenzhong and Dou Ning had worked together for a long time before finally killing number 18. Number 17, whose blonde hair was parted in the middle, was hiding in the crowd and watching the scene in a daze. Suddenly, he burst into laughter. He laughed so hard that tears rolled down his cheeks. Free, free, he kept muttering. In exchange, the surrounding people looked at him as though he was crazy. P.S. Previously, there were two 74s, so this is 70 SAXS. Please recommend and vote. Chapter 660. The plane flew above the clouds, sometimes stable, sometimes bumpy, as it headed towards the Southern Expressway of China. Lin Ke was fixed on a flat bed with an auxiliary life support system plugged in. He fell into a deep sleep due to extreme fatigue after a long period of tension and wasn't affected by his surroundings at all. Lu Cheng, Ji Zhenzhong, Dou Ning, and a few other military personnel sat nearby, flipping through thick documents marked as secret. These were printed from the information they brought out from North Harbor Base. According to the description, the underground laboratory had existed for a long time and was a product of history. It started as an air raid shelter and was later expanded to its current state. 2 years ago, it was remodeled and welcomed a joint research team from America and Japan. This was a branch of the Artificial Weapons Project. The main focus was changed from technological devices to genetic induction. In this aspect, Japan had done a lot of preliminary research and accumulated plenty of experience. It had been many years since the United States of America started the Artificial Weapons Project. After many failed attempts, they gradually found a direction and got on the right track. They had, number 1, that could be used in actual combat. After that, they improved it to number 15. Even though each number corresponded to only one experimental subject, there were actually many failed products buried behind them. Even those that succeeded had problems due to various reasons. More than half of them were removed from the sequence, providing experience and lessons for subsequent improvements. So far, the experimental subjects that were still in service were only number 4, number 5, number 6, number 8, number 10, number 14, and number 15. After Lu Chang and the others wiped out them, only number 14 and number 15 in the American headquarters were spared. Among them, number 15 was a mature product in all aspects. This could allow the dangerous level experts in the United States to have a second life. As long as they did not die on the spot, they could undergo the modification with a relatively high success rate. The only problem was that they would become rigid and mechanical, forgetting most of their memories. They would only retain their instincts and simulate normal behavior patterns according to the implanted chip. During this process, for various reasons, every test subject had a built-in blocking program to prevent them from going out of control. The blonde number 5 triggered this and suffered a genetic breakdown. After accumulating enough danger-grade experiments, the scientists of the Artificial Weapons Project set their sights on the Terragrade. Number 16, who was rumored to be dead due to severe brain injuries and was in a vegetative state, entered their sights. A year later, number 16 came back to life. Even without the implantation of a chip, he could fight on his own. It was almost the same as when he was alive. However, his daily actions were a mess, and he still had to rely on simulations. With such a successful experience, the Artificial Weapon Project had a higher goal. It was to create products that were no different from normal physical invulnerability experts and could think independently. Of course, brainwashing and control were necessary. For this reason, they reduced the application of nanotechnology and instead cooperated with the Japanese. Starting from genetic induction, the North Harbor base was put into use under this background. In less than a year, number 17, who was already adept at controlling fire, was born under the guidance and cloning of the genes of many fire element Terra-level experts. There were no problems with his thinking and actions, except that he appeared to be more reclusive and introverted. Combined with the high-tech equipment in his body, his special physical invulnerability level combat strength was even more surprising. He also showed some potential for growth. The experimenters called him a master of fire control who could catch up to the Dragon King. Before number 17, most of the test subjects were on the verge of death. The few healthy captives all failed without exception. Number 17's success gave the Japanese physical invulnerability expert in charge of the base hope to improve herself. After ample preparation, she accepted a limited modification, and was a great success. However, her personality was twisted, and she started to like calling herself number 18. It was because of this background that she had to apologize and make up for it in a leader's tone at that critical juncture. Recently, the North Harbor base's experiment seemed to have made a breakthrough. Before this, the standard of the test subjects depended on their original level. Modification could at most increase their combat strength slightly, and that was under the condition that there were many flaws. This time, the researchers found a better way to use the genes of the strong to make the weak undergo a qualitative change. Therefore, they urgently needed live subjects to verify it. Across the world, there were indeed many inhuman experts. However, they were not cabbages. How could there be a test subject on the verge of death or willing to appear in such a hurry? Therefore, Lin K, an inhuman with no background adventuring in the war-torn zones, was targeted. The person in charge of this was number 16. He was assigned number 4, number 5, and number 6. The follow-up verification of the information would be done by number 17, who was more independent and often active in the war-torn zones. It's a pity that the battle destroyed the main laboratory. A lot of data was lost. Also, judging from K.'s situation, their breakthrough can't be considered a success, said Ji Jianzhong with a sigh after flipping through the data. Lin K's experiment hadn't reached the most dangerous stage yet. This data is enough. It will be of great help to our related research. The military personnel agreed with Ji Jianzhong's words, but didn't dare to say it out loud. He flipped through the files and changed the topic. The core researchers of the base and number 18 are all dead. The main laboratory was also destroyed. I'm afraid no one knows how number 17 used the external control of the blocking program. What a pity. Otherwise, the military would have another physical invulnerability expert. Lu Chang was startled for a moment and then said thoughtfully, he pondered and said, Number 17 participated in the battle for 2 reasons. First, number 18 was there. Second, he was afraid that the researchers weren't all dead and that the damage to the main laboratory wasn't severe enough. At least before confirming that number 18 couldn't escape, he didn't dare to slack off or join in the siege. If he did, he might be dragged down with them. It would be easy for number 18 to kill him. Maybe. Dou Ning nodded approvingly. If number 17 was as described in the data and had the ability to think like a normal human. At this moment, the plane jolted. Lu Chang swallowed the words he wanted to say. He looked out of the window and saw the ground peeking through the thin clouds. He looked at the dilapidated miniature city and suddenly recalled what he had seen and heard in the war-torn zones over the past 2 days. He couldn't help but open his mouth and say, when will peace be restored here? The overall environment was filled with despair in the war-torn zones. It seemed impossible to change it. Lu Chang was also affected by such an atmosphere. He felt that doing anything would be useless. That was why he chose to be a bystander and not interfere in matters that were within the local rules. Ji Zhenjiang turned to look out of the window. He smiled, half self-deprecatingly and half emotionally. None of the forces here are righteous. The military personnel beside him felt awkward. They looked at the data and admired the scenery. Even a forbidden mighty one can't change such a situation, said Ji Zhenjiang. We can only hope that after such a long period of war, people's minds have calmed down. Even the forces and mighty ones who have set up a separatist regime are willing to compromise. Look at Zhelangang. With our help, it's focused on infrastructure and order. It has attracted a lot of refugees and is developing very quickly. If this continues, it will become a benchmark in the war-torn areas and attract other forces to imitate it. When the time comes, after a certain amount of reshuffling, there might be many similar peace points. Step by step, things will get better, a military personnel emphasized. At this moment, Lu Chang, Ji Zhenjiang, and Dou Ning felt Lin Kei's body move. They looked at him and saw his eyelids trembling slightly before he slowly opened them. How are you feeling? Dou Ning leaned over and asked concernedly. Grandma, Grandpa. Lin Kei greeted them twice. His personal style was obvious. Not bad. Ji Zhenjiang stood up and stood in front of the bed, consoling his grandson. You've made great progress in refining your root pulp and gained some strange abilities. After you go back and rest for a while, you'll be able to reach the peak of the inhuman stage. At that time, you can fight in the title matches and seek inspiration. Maybe you can make the great leap earlier than expected. If you really can't do it, you can come back here and train in real battles. Ji Zhenjiang stood up in front of the bed and consoled his grandson. Lin Kei didn't look away. His pupils darkened a little. He said with restraint but determination, I want to come every year. Even after reaching physical invulnerability. Why do you want to train in actual combat when you're already at physical invulnerability? At first, Lu Chang was stunned. Then, he understood his brother-in-law's true intentions. He replied tacitly, there are other mighty ones following that human trafficking organization. Don't worry. Lin Kei closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them again and said calmly, I'll still come. He'll still come? He'll still come after suffering so much? He'll help those he can help? He'll help those who can see the suffering. A few lines suddenly appeared in Lu Cheng's mind. Face as cold as ice, heart as bodhisattva. He'll do what he knows is impossible. Maybe this is the complete version of his brother-in-law. A stubborn boy. Influenced by him, Lu Cheng shook off the feeling of helplessness. He smiled and said, when I accept military missions in the future, I'll try my best to choose this place. If I meet them, I'll do what I can. The plane soared through the clouds. The curve of the southern part of China was getting closer and closer. Chapter 661. When the plane landed at the military base on the outskirts of Huaqing, it was close to noon. The sun hung high in the sky. Lu Cheng stepped out of the cabin door and was blinded by the bright sunlight. He felt like there was gold everywhere. He had lunch with the Ji couple and watched them leave with Lin Quebec. Then, he took the jeep from the base to a nearby intersection. He saw his assistant Amen, driver Zhao Zhenhua, and silver-gray MPV waiting there. Although only 2 days had passed, when Lu Qing sat in his usual seat, leaning against the soft and comfortable leather backrest and looking at the small bar with luxurious decorations, it felt like a lifetime had passed. This is how life should be. He closed his eyes and sighed. Amen saw that he didn't want to talk, so she sat diagonally across from him. She put her phone on silent mode and communicated with him via text. The car left the overpass and entered the bustling commercial district. Lu Qing suddenly opened his eyes and turned to look at the street outside the dark glass. Half an hour had passed, but there were still delivery men in different uniforms on the road, carrying lunchboxes. They looked busy and orderly under the scorching sun. A new shop had opened on the side of the road. There was a long line at the entrance, attracting many onlookers. Business seemed to be booming. This is what life should be like. Such things happen in war-torn zones as well, but they're all for the relief ration, not for the delicacies or additional desires. Recalling what he had seen and heard yesterday, Lu Qing suddenly felt a surge of emotions. Amen followed his line of sight and looked in that direction. She said dutifully, "This shop. They spent money to hire a lot of people to line up. Their model is very successful. They've opened quite a number of shops." Hired extras? Lu Qing swallowed back the sentiments he was feeling. How am I supposed to express my emotions? Amen retracted her gaze and saw that her boss looked a little weird. She quickly added, "I heard it from a friend who specializes in this business." After hearing that, Lu Qing suddenly shook his head and laughed out loud. His body and mind seemed to relax. In the afternoon in Connecticut, the wind was biting cold and the ground was frozen. Yen Zhaka had just finished class when she received a call from Lu Qing. He told her that Lin Kei had been rescued and that he was fine. He might even have good fortune in the future. Lu Qing didn't mention the details over the phone. He only said that he would describe it in person over the Christmas holidays. The girl understood the meaning of the song and did not ask further. She put the textbook into her orange-red sling bag and walked out of the classroom. She only felt that the sky was blue and the air was cool. The clouds were high and far, making people feel relaxed. There was an indescribable pleasure and leisure. She strolled along the picturesque campus road. Suddenly, she saw a bouquet of red roses and smelled the faint fragrance of flowers. Alfred, who had eyes as blue as the sea, smiled brightly. "Sophia, may I have the honor of inviting you to dinner?" He and Yen Zhaka had the same instructor, but they were not in the same group. His short blonde hair was flying in the wind, and he looked handsome. "I'm sorry," Yen Zhaka answered directly. "I've asked around. You only go home every night and have no other plans. Sophia, they all think that you're old-fashioned and conservative, a girl without any charm, but I can see the beauty that you're hiding. But that's not the main point. What strongly attracts me is your soul, your wisdom, the way you make people consciously listen to you every time you speak, and the way you always surprise the teachers and everyone." Alfred could not help but express his surging emotions. Sophia was an American name that Yen Zhaka gave herself. "That's your business. It has nothing to do with me." Yen Zhaka laughed. Then she waved her left hand. "See? I have a boyfriend. No, I have a husband. This is our wedding ring." "Oh, that's impossible." Alfred was shocked. "I won't lie to others about this." Yen Zhaka shook her head and planned to walk past him. Alfred was silent for a moment. Then he suddenly shouted, "I won't give up. Even if we are married, we have the freedom to pursue love and the right to break up peacefully." Yen Zhaka paused, turned around and looked at him deeply. Then she took out her phone and opened the recorder. She slowed down and said, "Can you hear what I'm saying?" "Yes." Alfred didn't know why. "Obviously, my ears didn't lose their function." "Very good." Yen Zhaka nodded slightly. "Then I officially reject you. I'll tell you seriously that if you do anything like this again, I'll consider it as harassment. When the time comes, I'll inform my lawyer and apply for a restraining order. If the first time doesn't work, I'll do it twice. If the second time doesn't work, I'll do it 3 times. Trust me, I have the ability to take it. If you doubt my determination, I can call my lawyer right now." Alfred was stunned. He didn't understand why a normal pursuit would turn out like this. Sophia,
Don't you think you're overreacting? He said, puzzled and frightened. Yen Zheka pursed her lips and smiled. Overreacting now can save a lot of trouble in the future. After all, some people don't understand rejection. I hope you don't waste our time. Otherwise, I can only sue you for harassment. After saying that, she turned around and was about to leave. But at this time, she saw a big rock that was dug out and was about to be thrown away. So she smiled and politely said, "Also, I'm a martial artist." Before she finished, she took a step to the side and used force concentration. With a bang, she pulled out her right leg. The instep of her foot was straight in her boots. Bam! Smoke and dust rose. The rock cracked into many pieces of different sizes. Alfred stared blankly, his eyes full of fear. Yen Zheka pulled back her leg and walked steadily but slowly to the door. She saw Aunt Du, who had driven over to meet her. She opened the door and sat in the passenger seat. She wasn't in a hurry to put on her seatbelt. Instead, she bent down and rubbed her right foot painfully. She hadn't been practicing for the past few months. Her body had become delicate. That kick just now was so painful that she almost lost her composure. She took off her boots and socks. Seeing the red and swollen instep, she was so wronged that she almost burst into tears. Picking up her phone, Yen Zheka sent a resentful message to Lu Cheng. "It's all your fault." When Lu Cheng got the signal and saw the message, he was totally confused and bewildered. What did I do wrong? After returning from the war-torn zones and resuming his normal life, Lu Cheng continued to plan for Ke's winter break. As his ferry had a last-minute arrangement to attend the European Economic Summit Forum, which lasted for 5 days, he was wondering if he should get a visa so that they could meet in advance and travel. It just so happened that he was in the mastering period and didn't register for the Battle of the King's main competition. He wasn't in the top professional competition yet, so he had some free time. Thinking about this, Lu Cheng got out of the SUV and entered the club like he did the past few days. At this moment, Almond's phone began to vibrate. A call came in. After she picked it up, she nodded a few times and said, "Mr. Lu, Empress Luo wants you to go to her office." That sounds formal. Lu Cheng's sharp senses told him that something was amiss. He and Ning Zitong had each other's phone number in WeChat and would occasionally contact each other. If there was an emergency, there was no need for an assistant. Puzzled, he took the elevator to the 5th floor. As soon as he stepped out, he immediately felt the heavy atmosphere. This is the effect of a physical invulnerability, mighty one. As he pondered, Lu Cheng knocked on Ning Zitong's office door. Ning Zitong's tired voice sounded from the other side. "Come in." Lu Cheng pushed the door open and entered, only to see this peerless senior gently rubbing her temples. "Is something wrong?" he asked bluntly. "Everything was normal yesterday." Ning Zitong smiled bitterly and said, "Long Zhen just informed me that he won't be renewing his contract after it expires in January. He's going to join Haiyuan Club, which just got promoted to the top professional competition." "Why?" Lu Cheng asked instinctively. "Isn't this too sudden?" Even though Optimus Prime Long Zhen often challenged Dragon King, and was always beaten to a pulp, he seemed to be enjoying it. Long Zhen is also a proud man. He wants to prove that he's not the one who basks in glory under Dragon King, that he's not the mighty one who's always ranked second. This isn't something that can be changed with a few titles. Therefore, he's joining Haiyuan and officially leading the team to challenge Longhu as an opponent. He's been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. Ning Zitong replied helplessly, "Haiyuan also has some military background, so there's no problem with the procedures." Although this was foreseeable, and as long as Long Zhen was still unconvinced and competitive, this would happen sooner or later, did it have to happen so quickly and suddenly? He thought of Wu Moyan, the current chief of Haiyuan Club, his master's old friend, and the self-proclaimed empty nest elder. He thought of Witch Qian Hui, Cheetah Li Yuanqi, and banished immortal Li Xiaoyuan, who joined them before graduating from university. With Long Zhen, they wouldn't be weak anymore. Ning Zitong lifted her cup and took a sip. She looked at Lu Cheng and said, "I originally wanted to wait until you've accumulated a wealth of experience in title battles and have a better grasp of all aspects before letting you gradually get used to the top professional competition. Looks like I can't wait that long." Chapter 662. Without waiting for Lu Cheng's reply, Ning Zitong explained in more detail. You've seen the club's matches. Dragon King, Long Zhen, and I are the main force. I'm getting on in years, so I have to learn to choose and conserve my energy in preparation for a title or two every year. Hehe. This year, I participated in the Battle of the Masters and Battle of the Kings. I rarely participate in consecutive matches in the professional matches. Most of the time, I rotate with Lu Yan. At the age of 40 and above, except for a few freaks like Dong Baxian and Lu Yongyuan, the top physical invulnerability experts would rationally give up on many matches and spend half a year or even a year accumulating their strength to fight for the honor of being second best in martial arts. Only in this way would they have a greater chance of carving a bloody path out of a group of formidable opponents. But even so, in the end, they would often fall in front of the Dragon King or the Warrior Sage, falling short of success. According to statistics, since the start of the legendary Twins era, at most 2 titles would be lost every year. Most of the time it would be 1. On rare occasions, there would be no titles at all. This was even when Chen Qitao and Qian Donglu were both heavily injured. My silly disciple, Guojia, usually only plays in the less important matches in the professional matches or takes over when someone is injured. She can barely cope with her current level. If it were some other forces, she could be the main force. But our goal is to be number 1 in the world. Ning Zitong continued, half heartbroken and half self-deprecating. I'm not saying that her hard work and training is useless, and I'm not saying that there's something wrong with her obsession with martial arts. She might be able to achieve rank 1 in a decade or so, but the problem is imminent. At this point, Ning Zitong took a deep look at Lu Cheng and sighed. On the path of martial arts, talent is really important. Don't be fooled by the fact that the Dragon King is often described as having perversely strict self-discipline. However, his talent is only bad when compared to martial sages. He is no different from me and most of the top-notch experts who have obtained titles. In addition to his unrivaled desire to win and his frightening speed, he is already comparable to martial sages. Her foolish disciple might need 10 years to advance from rank 2 to rank 1. By that time, she would be in her 40s. As for the person in front of her, he might need 3 years, 2 years, or even sooner to enter the ranks of the contenders for the title. This was the gap, a gap that could not be made up for in a lifetime. I've even mastered the physical invulnerability chapter of my martial arts. Isn't Long Zhen's contract expiring in January? You can participate in the remaining 3 matches? Ning Zitong chuckled. Do you think Dragon King will let him fight again? Don't you want to prove your position? I, the Dragon King, will show you how insignificant you are. As long as the Dragon King is here, victory is here. TSK. That doesn't sound like something the Dragon King would say. Lu Cheng pointed out. Although this was very much in line with the Dragon King's style, and even perfectly aligned with his psychological activities, with the Dragon King's personality and his domineering CEO demeanor, it was impossible for him to say such words. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't be bothered. What right do you have to make me say such things? Ha ha. Ning Zitong let out a dry laugh. I understand. Anyway, Long Zhen won't be part of the next 3 matches. You have to be prepared to be the main force. You can't always rely on me and Lu Yan, those 2 old men, to carry on, right? Especially the match this weekend. Lu Yan probably won't be able to fight. He's injured in the Battle of the Kings. He can force himself to fight, but it won't be good. This weekend, aren't we going north to Hudong to challenge Shangqing sect? Lu Cheng recalled. And it was a crucial match to determine the champion of this year's top professional competition. The Dragon King sure is conceited. It's fine. Yun Yan is injured, and the rest are second pin, replied Ning Zitong with a smile. Ning Zitong replied with a smile. However, since we have a problem, she may also fight with injuries. Under normal circumstances, Shangqing sect's main force was warrior sage Qian Donglu, sect leader Taoist who had won 3 titles, and Taoist Yun Yan, who was a strong contender for the titles. Dragon King Chen Qitao, Empress Luo, Ning Zitong, and Long Zhen were all part of the Twin Prides with 2 superclass members. They were the hot favorites for the top professional competition every year. In the second category were Daxing Temple, Yanzhou League, Shushan Study, and Xinghai Club. They were mainly fighting for the 3rd place, but in the past decade, they had each made it into the top 2 and even won the glory of the top. They were not to be underestimated. Lu Cheng nodded slowly. I understand. I'll prepare well. He had to go through the information and videos of the Shangqing sect mighty ones. Pulling himself together, Lu Cheng left the office. Just as he was about to turn into his room, he saw Long Zhan walking along the corridor towards the elevator. He was over 1 meters tall, with bronze skin and a shiny scalp. Wearing a loose-fitting martial arts suit, his mere presence gave off a strong sense of oppression. At this moment, he looked relaxed and lively. It was as though he had returned to nature after being in a cage for a long time. Lu Cheng didn't expect to meet him directly. He felt a little awkward and didn't know what to say or what kind of attitude to present. Morning. Long Zhen laughed heartily. After greeting him, he looked down at Lu Cheng and said leisurely, Wait until 5 years later. I believe you will make the same choice as me. Huh. Lu Cheng was a little confused. At this moment, Long Zhen stepped into the elevator, turned his huge body, and said in an ethereal tone, Because we will always be proud. The door of the sedan chair closed slowly, blocking Lu Cheng's line of sight. He was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, he remembered something his master once said, the best way to worship a martial artist was to catch up with him, face him, and defeat him. Looking at how Long Zhan enjoyed being tortured, perhaps he really worshipped the Dragon King in his heart. Sighing, Lu Cheng returned to his room and turned on his computer. There were videos of warrior sage Qian Dongluo's recent matches. At this moment, he suddenly remembered his original plan of traveling to Europe for a few days. Looks like it's over. Luckily, I didn't mention it to Ku. Otherwise, she would be disappointed. I don't have to get a visa for now. I can get it done earlier. Maybe in the future, I won't have to go through so much trouble. As his thoughts raced, Lu Cheng sent a message to Aman and asked her to help him get visas for various countries in Europe. Europe was currently a loose alliance. It wasn't possible to get a single visa to go to different countries. While Lu Cheng was training hard, Aman went to some consulates in Huaqing. Those that didn't have consulates here, she found one online. After the information was submitted, the obvious description of physical invulnerability triggered the danger alarm and gave the consular officers a shock. They didn't dare to act on their own accord. After confirming that Lu Cheng from the Longhu Club had applied, they reported it to their respective security departments. In an office in Yo country, a black-haired, blue-eyed man wearing a general's insignia glanced at the name and ordered his assistant firmly, Reject. Reject his visa. Why? The assistant blurted out blankly. Isn't this too casual? Should I check carefully? Although he's a crown-level mighty one, it wasn't as if there hadn't been such people entering the country before. The black-haired, blue-eyed general leaned back and said, Do you still remember the death of Dark Knight Bat? Yes. 3 mighty ones died in succession. Satha was besieged by Dark Knight Bat and the rest. We don't know who did the rest. Back then, there weren't any satellites monitoring this area, so we didn't take any precious photos, replied the assistant thoughtfully. Lieutenant General Aman has confirmed that Lu Cheng is a confirmed mighty one in the area who chased the mummy all the way to Kukhang. He's quite suspicious, said the general calmly. But he's only a suspect. Mighty ones of this level can cross the desert in a few hours if they want to. Even those in Nile's capital Dika are suspicious, said the assistant, providing his opinion. Recently, the secret cooperation between the United States and Japan was destroyed. The crown level number 16 and number 18 died there. They made a mistake and incurred the wrath of the Hua nation. There's no need to protest. However, Lu Cheng was involved in this matter, said the general. I know about this. He's probably just a support. The assistant was still puzzled. The general was getting impatient. Don't you get it? There are always crown-level mighty ones dying around Lu Cheng. At least 2 at a time. We're not like America. We only have a few. Do you want them to all die? But this is just a coincidence, right? You can't use misfortune or disaster as a reason to reject his visa, argued the assistant, feeling a headache coming on. At crown level, misfortune isn't fake. We have to treat it seriously. Who knows if it's another strange ability? Said the general, tapping the table lightly. Do you understand? Yes. Then what reason should we use to reject his visa or not? Asked the assistant, seeking his superior's opinion. The general pondered for a moment. According to the John Wilberg Convention. You're kidding, right? Blurted the assistant, stunned. No. The general shook his head. Of course you have to use its full name. Amen received a reply 2 days later. She glanced at Lu Chang beside her and pursed her lips. She didn't know what to say. What's the matter? Asked Lu Chang, opening his eyes. Ox Country has rejected your visa, replied Amen softly. Reason? Asked Lu Chang casually, frowning. Amen hesitated for a few seconds. John Wilberg Convention on the Restriction of High-Danger Weapons. P.S. I went to see the doctor and he said it's still in the early stages, so it's not that serious. The treatment plan he gave me is exactly the same as one of my friends in the comments. Take hormones and neurotropic drugs first, then get the face pierced a few days later. If the situation doesn't worsen and I'm getting better, then there's no need for the treatment. Yeah, I did get a few injections today, on my hands, feet, and stomach, to relax muscles and promote blood circulation. He also reminded me to rest well and not stay up late. So, I'm going to take a leave of absence today and adjust my work and rest schedule together with the previous one. Once I'm fully recovered, the chapter starting tomorrow will not be affected until I get the injections. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.